The role of Mikan Hana will now be played by Chris Pratt. He's so cool.
Wait,
I
what?
can't wait to hear
No!
all the references he doesn't get.
Hey!
Oh, what have we done to deserve this?
I don't
Chris Pratt
know.
cast in the role of Garfield in
What
the
is
upcoming
happening?
Garfield movie. Now, here's the thing. These are just things that people care about. He's been doing voice work for a while now.
I know.
And doing it a lot. But like now he hits Mario and Garfield and
Within a couple of weeks.
yeah. And of course that's the perfect lane for the kind of people that can complain about this kind of stuff to go, wait, I care about Garfield. Sure you do. You don't even have an opinion on Mondays.
I love Garfield. I mean, at least I loved Garfield growing up. It was a big part of my childhood. I watched the cartoon and I read the comic strip. You know?
I have to say that I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed about this.
Uh-oh.
But Garfield is a big part of my comedy development. And that might explain a lot for certain listeners. But I didn't, I read, and I'm talking like, I'm old. So I'm talking like classic Garfield before I don't even know if he's got political leanings. That's a Dilbert guy, but I'm sure he's fine. Uh-huh. But he hasn't drawn or done anything. He's only just hammered Garfield checks for like the last 30 years, right?
Uh-huh.
But I'm talking like the old, we used to hoard those books because the Garfield strip is a long strip, right?
Yes.
So they'd have those like multicolored taupe 70s colors
I know
books.
exactly what you're talking
and you'd
about.
flip through them and it's like the best of the strips.
Mm-hmm.
When Garfield was just like a fat mass, like an anvil, and not like the round kind of fun thing he is today. But I followed him all through. I had Garfield posters, and yeah, I was a big Garfield fan. And then I watched the cartoon as well, and there was one episode of the cartoon, and I didn't notice at the time, and you're not going to know until I tell you. I'm going to tell you what happens first.
Okay.
There's one episode of the cartoon that, hey, it's tough to write Garfield.
Yeah, right.
He hates Mondays, he loves lasagna.
Yes.
He doesn't like Nermal very much.
No, and he mails
or
him to
Odie.
Abu Dhabi.
That's right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so it's hard to come up with a show every week, I guess. So one week there was just a show where it just became like a documentary about comedy and like what's funny in comedy.
Sure.
And when they say what's funny, this isn't like Hannibal Buress coming up with some like observational bit about something. We're talking about like Borscht Belt, a vaudevillian like comedy.
Sure.
And so Garfield comes out and he does it's like an industrial training video type thing. And he's just talking about like repetition and doing things in threes, talking about the K sound, talking about long running bits that go on for a while, stop being funny, and then come back and are even funnier if you keep doing them.
Yes.
And I just remember watching that for some reason and just really committing all of that to memory. Mm-hmm. And I still do it today, which is why I'm not a good observational comic. But, and I didn't know until later that episode and a lot of the episodes were written by Mark Evanier, who is a writer. He's done some comics writing. It's a lot of reference about comics, but he's a creator. I think he worked on Dungeons and Dragons, the cartoon show.
Okay.
So he was working on cartoon shows and doing stuff. And his claim to fame was that he was Jack Kirby's assistant in I think the late 70s.
Okay.
Or early 80s. And so he actually published a book about Jack Kirby, which I have on my shelf.
Nice.
Yeah, I'd really like to meet him someday and thank him for teaching me about comedy.
Yeah,
just
right.
Deciding
through Garfield.
Screw it. We're just going to do this week. I don't know, guys. Get Lorenzo in here and he'll do the stuff and we'll be fine. But Chris Pratt. Here's what it is. I was trying to think of like how would I do Chris Pratt? How would you know I was doing Chris Pratt? I was trying to think of a Chris Pratt impression.
Okay.
And I came up with nothing. Because he is just like margarine, right? Like he's just completely whoop, there's nothing to hang anything on.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
He's just like an everyman, and then he got abs. Before he was a chubby everyman.
Yes.
Now he's an ab everyman.
Yes. And
that's all he's got. And he's got comedy chops. He's kind of funny.
Yeah.
I don't think that he's got good serious acting chops. I think whenever he tries to like act seriously, I just think about like Andy Dwyer. But I mean, that's it, right? And so his voice
yeah.
is just like, hey, I'm just my general voice. Hey, I'm Chris Pratt.
Right.
There isn't any, there's no hook for an impression. Robin Williams look
Not
at this guy
really.
and go, well, I don't know.
Right. Like how is Mario and Garfield? How are they going to sound any different? Are they going to sound exactly the same?
And that's exactly what these two companies want, or maybe they're the same company. They just want somebody who's you might know and come to the movie because you liked Guardians of the Galaxy or Parks and Recreation, but they don't want a take on it. Mario, I can see, because unless you get like the Prime Minister of Italy, somebody's going to be mad that you're like, oh, it's me and a spaghetti.
Yeah,
somebody's mad about what I just did.
Yeah, right.
But Garfield is like, Bill Murray said no, I guess. Right?
Yeah, right.
But what happened was Bill Murray said no.
And the guy they got for the original cartoon who sounded like Bill Murray, I guess,
not
also
alive.
said, oh, he's not alive.
No.
There you go. That's that. But you need somebody who can kind of sound like Garfield's kind of a curmudgeon a little bit, right? Like, I mean, at least he hates Mondays, and there's a lot of things that he doesn't like. We know he loves lasagna, and that's about it. And I think he kind of tolerates John, and that's also about it. So you need somebody who can sound a little, like crabby, but still be likable, and like you still want to follow that character. I don't know if that's Chris Pratt. I just don't see it. I don't see it.
Yeah.
And you love Garfield. You root for him, even though he's not necessarily the nicest character. You root for him, and I hate this.
At least you understand his point of view.
Yeah.
You might also hate Mondays.
I do actually hate Mondays. Yes.
You may want to drop kick a yapping dog off of a table. But they're just
I don't
not...
actually want to drop kick a dog.
And there's just no what's the humor? John is we like pathetic people. Like Charlie Day, speaking of somebody who is also in that Mario movie. What if Charlie Day is John? I don't know if this is animation or live action. I have no idea.
Oh God.
What if Charlie Day is John, right? Uh-huh. He's pathetic, but he's like really earnest and sweaty.
Yes.
Like that's John.
That is John.
So I could see something there, but like I still don't, there's not going to be a character. It'll just be Chris Pratt's kind of neutral, even tone and slightly comedic delivery.
Right.
Stuff.
Right.
This man doesn't love lasagna. Yeah. Look at those abs.
Well, I wonder what's going on too, that like both of these things came out down the pipe like around the same time. Like I know you could do a Mario joke with that. But like
or glug 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 as
right.
they say in the live action film.
Like so I was watching somebody else talk about this, and like somebody mentioned like, props to his agent, which I mean, I guess you kind of have to like, do that because I guess the agent is pretty good getting him this high profile stuff. But it's weird that we would be excited about this if we were excited about Chris Pratt, but we're not excited about Chris Pratt. So it's like bad news after bad news.
Yeah. Well, you're really going to flip your lid when he plays a simple desert carpenter named Jesus Christ.
Oh, my God. No.
Like ripped Jesus. I guess Jesus is already kind of ripped. He's lean. He's like wiry. He's not really ripped. A lot of fish. He's eating a lot of fish. Well, hopefully these will come out in time for his very healthy child to enjoy them.
Oh, stop it.
We're the Just Enough Trope podcast. I'm your host, Caliban, joined as always by my co-host.
Hi, I'm Mika and Hannah.
And I always love cutting the bits off right when we get to the part that Mika could complain forever about it. But we're going to move on from that weird thing and talk about what we're talking about today on the show.
Yes.
We are doing something kind of new. Covering a Marvel movie. No, we are doing something kind of new on the show where we let our Patreon producers, that is the people who support us on Patreon, vote in a poll and select what we talk about.
Yes.
For the first show of the month. Mm-hmm. And it's early days, so we're still kind of working the kinks out. But the first thing I thought was, let's talk about a film. We always talk about films.
Yes.
We like talking about quote-unquote bad movies. And so let's give people a comprehensive choice. Mm-hmm. We're literally going from A to Z.
Right.
So we can either watch 1980s The Apple a Golden Globus canon musical film,
Right.
Israeli film, which is famously bad, or the famously bad 1974, 76, should know that, Zardoz.
Yes.
74, I was right before. Never ever doubt yourself.
Oh, no.
Caliban. And so we put the vote out there, and the votes came back, and it was Zardoz.
Yeah.
So we'll be talking about Zardoz today on our special patron segment.
Yes.
Then, and we couldn't have planned this,
No.
but we, of course, have to talk about the newest Marvel movie, which had already changed release dates a couple times because of the pandemic.
Yep.
But it came out this weekend, the first weekend of November. It's a movie called Eternals, and it has some scary similarities with the movie Zardoz.
A little bit.
And that's our tease. We'll talk about that in a bit. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Yeah. I'm actually just started reading the Star Trek novel about Garrick called Stitch in Time, and written by Andrew Robinson, who played Garrick. And I'm really enjoying it. It sounds, I just hear his voice very strongly in my head. And a lot of it, some of it is like his flashback reflections of things we don't know about him, like him growing up and that sort of thing. But he also is sharing them with Dr. Bashir. So a lot of the writing is him writing, well, I guess it wouldn't be letters necessarily, but like he's writing to Bashir and sharing these things.
It's an epistolary
novel. Yes.
E-letters.
Yeah.
Or whatever they've got. F letters, Federation letters.
Yeah, right. Because it wouldn't be email.
Yeah, we have no idea how the show doesn't show us that stuff.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Yeah, and just to clarify for the audience if they're not familiar, Andy Robinson is the guy that played Garrick.
Yep.
He is he's been an acting professor. I mean, he's a method actor, and when he was cast in the role, a role that he would only appear in the show like 17 times, right, out of like 200 episodes.
Which is crazy to me because
maybe more than that, but not much.
He's such a big part of the show in my mind.
He immediately started examining the character and then started taking down, writing a journal like in the voice of the character to give him a backstory. And by the time that he had finished 7 years of this show, he's like, oh, I got like a novel here. Like I could just hook up with somebody and we could like cut it all together. And this is just basically a book. And so, yeah, it's a very famous book, a very popular book among Star Trek and Deep Space Nine fans.
Yeah, which is also famously out of print.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with that.
Which is weird. So I don't know when that happened exactly because Garrick, at least, you know, in more recent years with more stuff available on the internet and people getting together and, you know, fanfics and all that sort of thing, Garrick probably always was really popular, but now it's known that he's popular, if that makes sense.
And gay.
Yeah. And that's something that you know, has come up already in my reading just briefly. But you know how, so I'm reading the ebook version because that's what I could find.
Right.
You know how when you read ebooks, sometimes there's some writing that's underlined, like, and that means that like multiple people have highlighted that passage.
Right.
There's like one little brief descriptor about him being attracted to another man, and that's highlighted.
And everybody's highlighted that?
Yeah. So I
don't like that.
You don't like that?
No, it used to be when you got a used textbook or you checked out a book that other people had read for a class or something, you would see somebody wrote something in the margins or highlighted something. Yeah. And I don't even like that.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't want what you think is important about this book. And of course, the internet, and specifically Amazon, has done this thing where they have like crowdsourced interest. And so now you know that 3,000 people also liked that line. Clearly, this is the most important line. That's what art is, right? It's about you getting something out of the book that people tell you to get out of it.
No, that's not what I got out of it.
No, I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm just saying that's why I don't like that. I try to turn that off when I read Kindle books.
Okay, I've never really thought about turning it off. I've always thought, I just kind of, I guess I always look at it kind of as like a curiosity thing. Like, I just find it interesting, like what other people have like highlighted multiple times enough that it comes across.
I guess.
But I guess I also have always thought it was interesting what people write in the margins. I always loved that as a kid. So I guess that says everything you need to know.
I was like laughing at the person.
Oh yeah, like
if they write something I think that was dumb or or ignorant.
Yeah, or like interesting.
Yes, because I'm a one-man Schadenfreude machine.
Oh come on.
Well, I'll tell you why that book is maybe out of print, but I'll do it in the news. So just to recap, Zardoz, then Eternals. But first, the news. So in the world of publishing,
yes,
there are 5 big publishers.
Yes.
There were 6 big publishers just a few years ago.
Right, I remember
And before that, there were more big publishers.
Yep.
But the world of publishing is...
shrinking.
Getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
I don't feel like that's a good thing.
Like my pants. And
wow.
Recently, it was announced, like a year or so ago, it was announced that Penguin Random House, which is called Penguin Random House because a few years before that, Penguin Books merged with Random House.
Right.
And became the biggest publisher.
Right.
Well, now they're going to merge with Simon & Schuster.
Oh,
which is one of the big 5.
Before, I think.
And I think it's not the second largest. I think it's in the middle of the pack of 5. So let's say it's third, maybe fourth. But recently the Justice Department has sued to block the merger.
Really?
Saying specifically in their suit that the merger would give Penguin Random House outsized influence over who and what is published and how much our authors are paid for their work.
I agree with that.
They are basically suing to stop the formation of a monopoly.
Well, honestly, that's what I was thinking about. Yeah. Like, why are we okay with this?
And already I think we've got a situation where, Simon & Schuster... Actually, we've talked about this, haven't we? Because Simon & Schuster was basically owned by Viacom, and they published a lot of Star Trek books, which, insofar as, like, will books ever make as much as movies, money-wise? No. But it's...
Simple answer, no.
Sneeze at it, though, right? But Viacom merged with Paramount CBS and decided, we only want the streaming money. We don't care about book money. And so they want to... That's why this is happening. They're selling Simon & Schuster off. And they are also reorganizing their Star Trek books. So they stopped publishing Star Trek books more or less a couple years ago, right? Before the whole Discovery and the new Star Trek shows came out.
Right.
But since they've come out, they've kind of pulled a Star Wars and have basically said, like, we're just going to write new books that are out about the new shows. And there's been a couple other books that have come out that have kind of continued the long, 25 or so year tradition of the extended universe stories, which they are now kind of bringing to a close. Some famous authors who have been frequent guests on other shows that I do are writing like basically a series called Coda, which is like the end of the extended Star Trek universe.
Sorry, that sounded really
because
whiny.
Everybody wants out. Now, who knows? Penguin Random House might see the potential in just firing everything back up again, but I don't know. And a book like A Stitch in Time, which is written by an actor who has probably a different kind of agent than a literary agent, probably would get some kind of cut out of reprinting Stitch in Time.
Probably.
So why would they take a hit, and allow a guy to get a bigger piece of a book that's based on a show that came out 30 years ago?
I know, but...
And the answer is... Garrick will probably be on Picard season 3. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
The whole point of like building shows on top of a franchise that's existed for 50 years is that you have access to that. Now, Star Wars and Disney didn't see that. They're like, we don't really care. And plus we can just treat the extended universe as our salad bar. Take what you want, leave the rest.
Yeah, right.
Admiral Thrawn is canon. It's just a different canon. Like his story is different. Or, Jaina Solo and all the Skywalker kids or whatever.
Yeah.
We can find a way to put them in our new world. We don't have to worry about the old stuff. But like Star Trek has always been like, there's been a long line of continuity, even until J.J. Abrams came around and made those movies.
Yeah.
But even those are based on the idea that they started in the main universe. Like Prime Spock is in 2 of those movies.
Yes.
Actually, his picture's in the 3rd one. So he's in all 3 of those.
Yes.
So the specter, if you want to call it, it's something negative of continuity, reigns over that franchise.
Yes.
So it would be silly to just try to throw them away or contradict them in some way.
I think so too, especially...
And if people want to buy a Garrick book, and they do,
you
should let them buy
Believe
that
me,
book.
they do.
Make a prestige hardcover with a foreword by Andy Robinson.
Oh my God, it would sell like hotcakes.
And his set photos in the back, and yeah.
It would sell, they would sell so many of those. I'd buy one. I mean, there's a number of Garrick Bashir, groups on like Facebook, and and that are they're huge fans of that pairing of both of them, especially Garrick. And I swear it seems like once a month I see somebody posting about finding that book in like a garage sale, or it's someplace where like they don't know what they have, and they got, they're so excited that they got it. And it's every time it's just like they would just sell so many. They'd sell like hotcakes.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So this was filed in the District Court of the District of Columbia, and we'll see. We'll see how this works. You have to imagine that if this was Trump's DOJ, maybe this wouldn't be a problem. But of course, this is under a Democratic regime, with Democratic leadership in the Justice Department, and so I don't know. We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's bad. But then again, most of the authors I know are just like, they've accepted it, that this is just the way publishing works now.
Well, how can they go about their lives anywhere?
Yeah, plus they don't want to screw up their promotion.
Well, yeah, right, exactly.
They need to get books published by these people.
Yeah,
so.
They might not be happy about it, but they can't really say a whole lot publicly.
Well, here's some bad news, or some potentially we dodged a bullet news. I saw an article on Variety recently that said that the movie Call Me By Your Name, which was directed by Luca Guadagnino, but was currently planned to be co-directed by him and James Ivory.
Okay.
Ivory of Merchant Ivory.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
Merchant Ivory, right?
Yeah. I think so. Like, it's not great. Like, it's like the Merchant Ivory trade.
Nope.
No? Okay.
No. Merchant Ivory is a production company, James Ivory and Ismail Merchant, who basically were like the Miramax without the negative implications of costume dramas. Right?
Okay.
So we're talking Howard's End, Remains of the Day, Surviving Picasso.
Sure.
If Anthony Hopkins and Emma Thompson are in it, and there's some corsets, and Helena Bonham Carter's wandering around somewhere, it's a Merchant Ivory movie.
Okay.
And so they made a lot of money, got a lot of, killed a lot of elephants. And
all right. Okay.
Yeah, maybe just come up with a different name, But you got to put your names in it.
It sounds bad.
Anyway, he had a falling out with Luca Guadagnino, and so only Luca made the movie. And we are finding out now because he's releasing a memoir called Solid Ivory, so he's playing into it too.
Okay.
Where we found out that Shia LaBeouf was originally cast in the film.
As the Timothée Chalamet part?
No, as the Armie Hammer part.
Oh.
Yes. So
I hate
they
that.
were always set on a Predator for that role, huh?
I guess so.
It's kind of bad when you have this story about an adult man and a non-adult boy who's legal in Italy or wherever they are, I guess.
Yeah.
Having this relationship, and then both picks for the older guy is literally a real life predator.
It's not great. I mean, like the story itself, I feel like even though it's kind of the age difference thing is not great, I feel like overall the characters' relationship with each other is sweet. Although there is still, it's like you are an adult and this person is a burgeoning teen. Like you shouldn't necessarily.
You got to burgeon somehow, I guess.
Oh my goodness. I liked the movie when I saw it, but like just knowing what I know about Armie Hammer, I don't know if I could. I don't know how I feel about rewatching it.
Yeah, this guy he seems like a real interesting guy. He also wrote the script for the film.
Okay.
And he responded in his memoir to apparent criticisms that there was not enough nudity in it.
Okay.
So apparently,
All right.
I mean, it's a gay romance.
Yeah.
I guess somebody wanted to see hanging dong, and so
Is that what you're assuming? That's what it is, or
I think
that
that's what the criticism was. Right?
Oh, okay.
So
or that the sex scenes weren't explicit enough.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, if you look at something like, Blue is the Warmest Color or something, and then you flip over to Call Me By Your Name, and it's like relatively chaste for a same-sex romance.
Yeah, that's true.
But apparently both stars had contracts that said no frontal nudity. And so he's like, I found a way to satisfy people, I think. It's like, dude, Jesus, is that really like...
I don't think that's what you should take away from that criticism.
Yeah. Well, no, first of all, the criticism is not enough hanging dong in the movie. But apparently he's like, no, I wanted the dong. I want the dong in there.
Yeah, that's like, what?
They wouldn't let me put the dong in.
Yeah, right.
So, to the left with all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's not great.
No.
Although they want to make a sequel to that movie.
Yeah, do you think
I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think too.
Yeah, unless you recast.
Yeah.
Let's move on to other bad news. Gal Gadot is going to play the evil queen in Disney's live-action Snow White.
Okay.
So, I see 3 bad things here. One, just Gal Gadot in general. That she's going to play the evil queen. Yeah, a lot of range for that. She's going to be real great at that.
Oh my God, no.
And then also they're making a live-action Snow White. You guys, come on.
They're just going to make a live-action everything. I mean, they made a live-action Lion King. They're not going to stop. It doesn't matter if it's all animals. They'll probably do do you think they'll do a live-action Robin Hood where Robin Hood is a fox? That might be a little hard.
I think furries would want that to happen. Sure.
Well, yeah, but I'm not sure I want that to happen, and I'm a huge Robin Hood fan. I just don't like the live action films that much.
It's going to be directed by Mark Webb, the guy that directed the Amazing Spider-Man movies.
Yeesh.
Looking great there. And will star Rachel Zegler, who will be playing Maria in the upcoming West Side Story. So why bother to even really stretch out that much? Hey, she's vaguely ethnic. Bring her in. Our job's done.
Okay.
We're the wokest company in the world.
Well, no, nobody would accuse us of being the wokest company in the world.
Let me clarify my muddying of this issue.
Please.
It is not that I don't care about, I want movies to be diverse.
Yeah.
I just don't like their performative wokeness.
I understand that. I do. And I get what you're saying too. Gail,
plus I don't think they should cast Gal Gadot.
No, I like
Wonder Woman. We all like Wonder Woman.
We all like Wonder Woman, but she doesn't have a lot of range. Sorry, Gal Gadot. You are gorgeous, but you are not the best actress.
Is all you need.
We saw her doing voiceover for a commercial for something. It was some sparkling water.
Oh yeah, drink sparkling water.
And it's what?
Good, tastes like lemon.
It's just you just have this questionable you're questioning why was this choice made? Yeah. And again the evil queen thing. I think we could have done something else with this. So yeah, and then she's just problematic because of her look. She's from Israel. She's very proud that she's from Israel, but probably being brought up in Israel.
Being from Israel's cool. Tweeting in support of the IDF.
Yes.
Maybe not so cool.
Correct. And that's where people have problems with her mostly. Yeah. So not great. Not great
at all. Let's talk about, let's just do all the bad stuff first, then we'll flip over to the good stuff.
Okay.
So here's another bad. The production on Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever, has shut down until next year.
Why?
Here's why.
Okay.
So obviously things are always still a problem, with Hollywood, because there's a lot of money on the line. Stepped up real early. Especially because Tom Cruise yelled at them and got serious about COVID protections.
Yes.
But I don't know if you remember, we talked about this earlier in the year, but Letitia Wright was hurt in filming a stunt sequence in August.
Yes, I do remember that. And so they had to take a break.
Yeah. And we get these stories about like, you know, I don't know what capacity she's on set or if these were happening before or after her accident, but we got the impression that she's on set. But apparently she has been mostly, if not exclusively, recovering in London.
Oh, okay.
And they've been shooting like around her, you know, shooting stuff that she's not in.
But
apparently she was scheduled to come back, but is not ready to come back. Like she's still recovering and still hurt.
That
and
sucks.
so they just said, look, I mean, Thanksgiving, Christmas, all this stuff's coming up. Let's just everybody go home.
Let's just cut our losses.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Yeah, okay. All right. I mean, it's probably for the best, and then hopefully come January she'll be recovered enough and we'll be able to move on. So
get a shot of vaccine and then make this movie.
Well, that would be great, but I don't know how much hope we can hold out for that one, but that would be fantastic.
If you're what's Ryan Coogler think? If you're Ryan Coogler,
I don't know.
First of all, I don't know Ryan Coogler's opinion on
anything
on vaccines. Oh no, I know his opinion on a lot of stuff. I just don't know it on vaccines. But he's a smart guy. I'm assuming that he knows that they're important. But aren't you just like, look, didn't I? Don't you look up to me? Didn't I would anybody know who you are if I didn't put you in the first movie that made $1.5 billion?
Oh gosh, I hope he doesn't talk to her like that.
Right, but look, what are we talking about here?
I know.
We're not here for fun. This isn't a high school play. We're here to make some money, right? And so it's like, just take the stick. Come on, right? Let's just do this. Why? You're screwing up my movie. This is an important movie for us.
Yeah.
And all people can talk about is the fact that you are telling people not to get vaccinated. Like, can't you just work with us here?
I know.
Marvel should start putting it in the contracts.
They should.
And it's...
I don't know why it isn't already.
Well, because it's, look, I will admit, this is a dangerous thing to admit, but I will admit that there is an element of choice here. Now, will conservatives give liberals the benefit of the doubt when we've been talking for years about a woman's body and her choice with what's done with it?
Yeah, probably not.
They don't see at all the parallels between that choice. But I do think that it's like, maybe for actors, not so much. Police officers, yes. And all the police officers in LA that are quitting over having to be vaccinated, goodbye.
Yeah, don't let the door hit you in the way
exactly.
out. That's how I feel about
Felicia,
that.
yes. But as far as like voluntary work on a movie set where there's a lot of people and all you're doing is just going, no, T'Challa or whatever, like, writing it into the contract seems a little extreme. But there's all kinds of things that they already asked them to do. You sign a contract saying that I have to do 300 sit-ups every day. You sign a contract saying that I can't be seen smoking or, there's all kinds of things that are already in the lifestyle contract that just say, get a vaccination.
I mean,
if they were shooting in Africa, they would all have to get malaria vaccination. They'd all have to get all this stuff.
I know. I would be surprised if nobody in Black Panther had. I would assume that somebody has tried to talk to her about this, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like this is something she's open to listening about, and I don't know if like Ryan Coogler talking to her about it would make a big difference or not. Maybe that, and I don't know. Maybe he's tried, but it's just frustrating to hear about because. Wow, I really like the character of Shuri, and I think she did a good job in the first movie, and I just wish it wasn't like this.
Yeah.
I just wish it was better.
I also feel the same way. I agree with you completely.
Okay.
Let's talk about the good news.
All right.
So, it was announced. Double announcement. Here's the double announcement. Kal Penn says, I'm gay, and also, I'm engaged to my longtime partner.
Kal Penn? Who's Kal Penn?
Oh boy, that is I'm not going to tell Cal you said that.
Okay.
Kal Penn is a movie star and also an activist. He's the Kumar of the Harold and the Kumar.
Oh.
He's on House.
Okay.
I think John Cho's been a little more successful than him, but then he hasn't done all the work with the Obama administration.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't know his name. That's cool. That's really cool. Congratulations to him and his fiance.
Yes.
And that's That's great news. Double great news. So.
It is, and they're going to go to White Castle. I don't know.
Oh gosh, I hope they have better plans than that.
He has said about his experience that he's got a pink pocket square. People, we didn't know that. I'm just kidding.
Wow.
He has said. I'm just kidding. He said that. Look, I'm excited. I'm announcing this. I'm excited about it.
Guys can like pink who are straight.
I feel like
pink.
that. I
That's
feel like
fine.
that has been. That is at its lowest ebb right now. That has been true. I've worn many pink shirts.
Yeah.
In the 90s.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I don't know if I would do it now.
Okay.
He has said that this is something that he has come to like relatively late in life. Although he has been with his fiance Josh for 11 years.
Sure.
And that he said that like he doesn't like want to like, talk out of school or whatever, but like he's already told his Indian parents and the South Asian community that he intends to be an actor for a living. So now he feels like he can like do anything. I think he's implying that like, he's already like, Mom, I don't want to be a doctor. I want to be an actor.
Yeah, right.
And they're like, ugh, I'm gay. Well, whatever.
Yeah, right. And maybe that's true. I don't know. The way it's funny the way he said it.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's oh gosh, there's so much truth to that.
People really, I've never seen those movies, but people really love those movies. I feel like if they did,
yeah, I've never seen them either.
They've done 3, right? I feel like if they announced tomorrow they were doing the 4th one, people would be like, yeah, but bring it on.
Yeah, probably.
So maybe he'll guest star on Cowboy Bebop or something.
Maybe.
We'll see. Here's a story that, based on how you feel or what you know, might be good or bad. Taika Waititi is going to adapt Alejandro Jodorowsky's comic book graphic novel, The Inkle, as a film.
Okay. I don't know much about this at all.
So
I love Taika Waititi as a director.
And you are intrigued by Jodorowsky.
Yeah, well,
but you don't know if you like him or not.
Well, I know. Yeah, well, I guess.
He is co-writing the script with Jermaine Clement.
Okay, I like Jermaine Clement.
And, God, how to describe The Inkle? So it's not French, but it's nominally a French comic.
Okay.
This and also Humanoids, right?
Okay.
Humanoids were his 2 big series. Their Humanoids is like Giger's involved somehow in Humanoids. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I think his wife. I think he ran it at one time or owned it.
Okay.
And they publish like, in the 1970s, they were publishing like these, underground kind of comics. This isn't like Spider-Man or whatever, Captain America.
Of course.
It's more like adult. And Mobius drew a lot for them. I think he did a lot of the Inkle. And so it's like these crazy art and like these weird sci-fi universes. And so that's what we're talking about here. If you think about like, remember Valerian? Mm-hmm. Kind of like Valerian.
Okay.
Although that was a different writer, an artist.
Sure.
But that same sort of like galaxy spanning kind of thing, taking stuff from stuff like Star Wars, but like going in different weird places, cyberpunk type stuff.
Sure.
And basically it's about a private investigator like in the future, and he finds this like object of power called the Inkle, and he has to get together the ragtag crew and save the universe or something like that.
Okay. I'm intrigued. It could be good.
I read it a long time ago, and I don't really remember anything about it. I actually liked Humanoids better, but that was just me.
Okay.
And what I think is interesting about it, and nobody has made any bones about this, is that it's spelled Incal. And if you replace the A with an E, it's Incel. Incel. So I'm surprised nobody's been like, this is about incels, huh?
Yeah, I am surprised just like just how the internet reacts to things and incels in general. I'm surprised that nobody's jumped
The character's
on that.
name is John DeFool. It's like, okay, well, you do the thing.
Oh, okay.
So maybe call it John DeFool or something instead of like the incel.
Yeah, right. Huh, interesting.
Yeah. So we've hit the tapping the French, and we've hit the metal hurlant part of making comic books into movies.
I guess. Wow. It only took how many years before we got there? A long time. I mean, what do you consider to be the first comic book movie? Do you consider the first Blade movie to be the first comic book movie? Or
Well, Popeye's a comic.
Well, that's true.
So Robert Altman did it first.
Oh, there you go.
No, I don't know. So that, I don't know. We'll see. Taika Waititi is going to make it a Taika Waititi thing.
Yeah.
No matter what. And so we'll see how that works and whatever goofy character Jermaine Clement's going to play.
I'm sure he'll probably be in it, but that's okay. I like him as an actor too. And, Taika Waititi likes doing weird out there things. So I'm sure it will be plenty out there.
It's just weird.
It's just so weird.
How about this? Vin Diesel has publicly asked Dwayne Johnson to return to the Fast Saga for Fast and Furious 10, or, as we styled before, Fear Tennis.
Is that the name we came up with?
Yeah.
To get 10 in there? Okay. I think, this shows some growth on Vin's side, and I hope that The Rock, takes his hand and shakes on it and goes with this, because wouldn't it be great if they were both in this? If it's going to be is this going to be the last one? Is that what their plan is?
I think there's two more, I think.
There's two more. Yeah. Okay.
Well, they're contracted for two more. Or maybe 2 or 3 more.
Okay, but wouldn't it be cool for them to both be in the movies again and to not totally hate the experience of working with each other?
Yeah,
that's cool.
The Fate of the Furious is where things kind of broke down. Of course, Rock wasn't in the last one. Went off and made Hobbs and Shaw. Now, they are developing a Hobbs and Shaw sequel, although I feel like Hobbs and Shaw, all these things make money.
Yeah.
But even the studio can't spend an unlimited amount of money. So often they look at the reviews and go, it's like, why is there no Amazing Spider-Man 3, even though that made $800 million? And they're like, because people were getting physically ill in the theater.
Yeah, right.
So we're not going to make another one. So despite people not really liking Hobbs and Shaw, there's going to be another Hobbs and Shaw.
I feel like I've heard that a lot, but I feel like I've also heard a fair amount of fans be like, I really liked Hobbs and Shaw. So I don't know if I'm just around people who are the minority and that's just what I'm hearing, or if there are just enough people who really enjoyed it. So despite all that,
I don't know. The Rock has said in the past that he is not going to be any more of these, but who knows? He's obviously got Black Adam ramping up.
Yes.
Got that out. And so we don't know. I speculated that if he is in it at all, it'll probably be a smaller cameo role. Mm-hmm. Ava, what's her name, if you will?
Oh, God, I hope it's more than Ava Mendes. Because that was barely anything. It was just the teaser at the end. Yeah. It was really...
That he was in too.
Yeah. But
a cameo like that.
Yeah, but I can't... Why did she come back for that? That's so...
What
sucks.
else is she doing?
Well, I know. I guess maybe that's it.
Not doing anything else.
Nope.
So that's that. How about another good news story?
Sounds good.
He says to a woman who's drinking water.
Sorry.
We're going to talk about it in a little bit, but there is some good news about this old Eternals movie, which is a movie that stars a very diverse cast.
Yeah.
Including a gay character and a gay actor.
Yes.
Playing a gay character, which is something we don't always have.
No, you're right.
Who has a husband and a family, have a same-sex marriage and couple. And usually Disney does the LeFou thing where they're like, oh, we can just cut this little bit where 2 men are dancing.
Yeah.
Just zip it right together. No problem. 2 ladies kiss in the very background of a scene in Star Wars.
Right.
Put a Wookiee over them. No problem. Well, Disney, for some reason, has decided to push back against overseas censors and refuse to cut the gay couple from Eternals. Therefore, the movie will not be debuting in the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, or Qatar.
Fine, is what I have to say to that. And thank God that Disney has a backbone on this. And maybe you're going to tell me why, but I am at least happy for this small victory, at least for this time being. And I can't, that's all I have to say right now. Because
that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah.
Remember that? Remember that movie? That's all I have to say about that.
What is that from?
You don't know what that is?
No.
Life is like a box of chocolates.
Oh, Forrest Gump. Okay.
Yeah. That's what they did. I think that is fantastic. we don't want your money. And
that's how I feel.
I guess you're just going to have to guess what happens in this foam.
Yeah, right.
We don't know if it's going to be important at all for the rest of the Marvel Universe. We'll talk about that in a review.
Yes.
But I think that's pretty amazing. I don't know what else to say about that other than also there's a hearing impaired character.
Yes, which I think is great.
And, we'll talk about it in the review.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a double tease.
That's a double tease.
Not a bad thing.
No.
Just it gets into like what's going on in the movie, and so we'll do that in a little bit. How about one more thing before we push off and begin talking about Zardoz, and of course on the other side of that will be our Eternals review.
Okay, sounds good.
Right?
Yep.
Let's talk about Wyatt Russell. You remember him?
Yeah, I do.
He is pretty big right now. He was the new Captain America in that show.
Yeah.
And he is also
Captain America, Winter Soldier.
Yep, got some movie roles going on.
Or Falcon and Winter Soldier.
And he was in a show, I was first exposed to him in a show called Lodge 49.
Yes.
A show that gone before its time. It definitely went off the rails a little bit in the second season.
It totally did.
That might have been an effect of knowing that they would not be coming back. But a great show, a quirky show, a great inheritor to the Twin Peaks, the picket fences of the world.
Yeah.
And gone too soon. Well, there's a fan podcast called Pod 49.
Of course there is.
Because of course there is. See, that's the key. Why would you make a podcast about Star Trek? There are over 800 episodes of Star Trek shows. There are billions of Star Trek fans around the world.
Yeah.
But if you make a podcast called Pod 49, and you have 796 followers on YouTube or on Twitter, you can get Wyatt Russell on your show. And they did.
Oh, cool.
Let's go find a on life support cultist show that we can get, whoever the star is on.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Huh.
But
well, that's neat.
I will now share some of the things that he shared because he basically teased what would have happened in the third season.
Oh, neat.
So, spoilers for, I guess, 2 seasons of a show that you didn't watch, or spoilers for what might have happened in the third season if you know what the show's all about. Apparently, according to Russell, the third season would have begun with his character Dud after being struck by lightning and buried alive. It's a weird show.
It is a weird show.
Would have woken up in the Crimean War.
What?
With his spirit inhabiting the body of Harwood Fritz Merrill, the founder of the Ancient and Benevolent Order of the Lynx.
Wow. That's a jump even for the show. Okay.
And he was saying that that's the idea. The show was going to be 4 seasons. That's all they wanted. And it would be the 4 elements. So it would be water. In the first season, he's bitten by the shark.
Yes.
I guess the second season is about fire somehow. And
it's
then
lightning.
Yeah.
Lightning's kind of fiery.
Yes. And then, they set fire to the tapestry at the auction.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I love when people talk about things and I don't know what it is, and it sounds like they're just doing like an extended bit, like they're making it up as they go.
Yeah.
We are not making any.
No, we're not making this up.
I would totally recommend this show, and it's impossible to spoil for you. So.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the next, the Earth and Air for the next 2.
Okay.
And he was like, and this is all real stuff, because he's like, I'm telling you, like Jim Gavin is the guy that did the show, created it. He's like, Jim said I could say this, but I feel like I'm giving all the secrets away here.
Well, that's cool. That's really, what a neat thing for a podcast to experience. And I wish that we could experience that on one of our podcasts. That would be so cool.
He says that he is, I don't know if he, so it was an AMC show. I don't know if anybody owns it, and there might be a barrier to it, but he said that he would, at the drop of a hat, come back and do more Lodge 49 if somehow that happens. Yeah,
sounds like he really enjoyed being on the show too. So
I say
cool.
Get Bruce Campbell back in. Yes, Bruce Campbell's in this show. By the way.
Right, exactly. I know. It was a fun show.
And this is, we don't have a lot of time before our 2 reviews of 2 movies, but I wanted to mention quick that there's a thing going on right now with Doctor Who. We know that the star and the showrunner of the show are both leaving.
Right.
And Russell T Davies, one of the original, really the guy that rebooted the show for the modern era, is coming back to write it. There's a weird thing going on where part of Doctor Who's success in its reboot has been budgets that make the show look like it's not shot in somebody's backyard.
Okay, right. So a lot of money.
Yeah, and the way that's happened is that is through co-financing deals.
Okay.
Because the BBC can, they are a government agency, right?
Yes.
They get this money from TV license fees.
Sure.
And taxes. They get it from the people. It's public television.
They
basically.
pay for it, yes.
But public television can't pay for all these computer effects and a monk is turning into a werewolf and whatever. And so they get a lot of this money through co-financing deals. So they've been co-financing with this private company called Bad Wolf, which is founded by Davies and Julie Graham. I can't remember her name. His producing partner.
Okay, sure.
And so they
they
own their own money. They're private, right? And then they work with this public company. Well, Bad Wolf is going to be bought, or at least it's in the process, by Sony.
Oh, I think I'd heard about this.
Which means that Bad Wolf, which was nominally acting in good faith with the BBC, will now be owned by one of the largest private corporations in the world.
Oh, so maybe that partnership is going to go away? And maybe the special effects won't be as good?
No, they'll be better than ever. Oh. But Sony, who made the Ghostbusters 2016 film, will have partial, if not total, control over Doctor Who. So you all laughed when I said that Luke Perry, the American Doctor Who, was coming, but it's coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the way that they
sadly not with Luke Perry.
And the way that I'd give anything to get it back. And the way that a lot of people connected to this have talked is that, like, even people at the BBC, when they were doing this, the modern version of Who, were like, the way that you have to do this is you have to turn it out like Marvel, like Star Trek. We got to make all kinds of things out of this. Meanwhile, we can't get a Sarah Jane show off the ground. We can't get a K9 show off the ground.
I know.
But they're like, no, you got to turn this out. Uh-huh. So the turning out of Doctor Who is coming under the watch of Sony.
I hate
a company that a couple years ago was ready to quit the movie business because everybody read their emails about how Peter Parker should, do Tough Mudder because that's cool.
Yeah, no. A couple other things. I think that some of these companies, the way that they think about this is, they just want people to consume, and they're not thinking about what the fans necessarily really want.
No.
Yeah, we want cool makeup and that sort of stuff. And,
you can
you can do a lot with not a lot of money.
You can completely have, all of these things have commercial ends, right? They're all there to make money, sell soap or whatever. But you can still accomplish quite a bit with that attitude. Paramount put the first gay sci-fi kiss between two women. They're not sci-fi kissing. They're not licking a phaser. But you know what I mean? Kissing. All of Trek's progressiveness was at the behest of that company with the mountain in their logo, right?
Yeah, right.
And if it wasn't making money, they would stop doing it.
Yeah.
See Enterprise.
Yeah, right.
But you can still want to turn something out and have something great. Star Trek Prodigy is an advanced AI created this thing to make it attractive to young kids. Uh-huh. But it's still delivering Star Trek storytelling for a younger new generation.
I think so too.
So what we need Russell T Davies or somebody to be enshrined as the Doctor Who czar. And so all the creative decisions go through him or her or them.
Yes.
And say that's basically what a showrunner or a head writer does.
Yeah.
But just say Sony wants to put skateboards in it and just be no, we're not going to do skateboards.
Yeah, right.
But we'll try to do, maybe the kids that the Doctor helps are riding skateboards. So
sure.
Try to stave off the forces that will just choke this thing to death, which, as we know, is a hothouse flower.
It
went away for a long time.
Yes.
And only through careful cultivation and Eric Roberts did it come back.
Oh, Eric Roberts. And it's super sensitive.
Eric Roberts has the most credits of any actor on IMDb. Rod Steiger, feh.
Oh my
Christopher
God.
Lee, I'm doing that gesture.
The screw you. The Italian gangster screw you sign.
He has the most credits. His current credit total, and it changes all the time, is he's working on so many movies this year, is 642.
Holy cow!
He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 movies in pre-production. He is currently filming 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. He's filming almost 20 films, and he's got 30 films in post-production. No, 40 films in post-production or completed, not released.
How does he keep it all straight? Like, his management team, they have to just have it down to the letter.
It must be.
You know? Like, does he work on one film a day, or is it like, now you're going to go to this set, or at 2 p.m. you're going to go from this set to this set?
Bruce Willis has probably done more movies in the last 10 years than he did in his entire career before that. And he works, if he has a $1 million fee, that might have gone up since then, but it used to be, you give me $1 million to be in the movie. And you have him for one day, and you just get him in, but he'll do a long day, and you get him in as many setups as you can. And then it's just overtime after that. I'm sure he wouldn't just walk off the movie, but it's like you are on his time. Huh. Eric Roberts does not have Bruce Willis.
I was going to say no.
So he probably has to do multiple days on these films. Although I'm sure a lot of these is he's appearing on a TV or is just a cameo.
Right, because he's not. It's not like he's like a lead role in like all of these films.
He's probably a big role in a lot of them.
Yeah. Wow, that's kind of crazy. No, but just going back to Doctor Who for a minute, I think that people forget that the Daleks are these aliens that have a toilet plunger to the front. I mean, they didn't have a lot of money. So they looked around and they were like, well, what can we use and how can we make it work for us? And people loved it. And we don't necessarily care if the effects are super good because that's kind of part of the charm.
Yeah.
And I kind of care more about like the writing being good and like the characters making sense. And that's why I haven't been as interested in this latest round of Doctor Who.
You don't think talking to an interdimensional frog makes sense?
I don't. Why do I care? I guess it's not making me care. I mean, let me just put it that way. And like, I don't want space Amazon to be a cool place to work because the real Amazon doesn't.
Thank God the doctor gave Rosa Parks the strength to keep sitting in that bus seat.
What did they even do? They're like, no, we can't interrupt.
Hey, I don't come to your island and tell stories about how you got rid of slavery 60 years before we did.
I know, right? So, anyways.
Beyond 1984, beyond 2001, beyond love, beyond death, beyond watchability. It's the 1974 Irish, American, British science fantasy film Zardoz.
Yes.
Written and directed by John Boorman. Also, little help on the script by writer William Stair, who does not have a Wikipedia entry, so you know he's done a lot of stuff.
Okay.
This is a movie that blows your mind, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's often thought of, I think that, thanks to the internet, the internet's given a lot of things a little glow up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that there are people who appreciate something like Plan 9 from Outer Space more than they might have previously.
I haven't seen that one.
You don't probably need to see it. I know I love Glen or Glenda. I think Glen or Glenda is awesome.
Yeah,
and
right.
It has definitely come up in people's estimation, but Zardoz is, or has been thought of as, one of the worst films of all time. It made $1.8 million on a $1.75 million budget. Now that's just domestic. I don't know what it made worldwide.
Yeah.
I'm guessing nothing. And one of the problems was that people who were watching the movie and then leaving were coming out and running into people who were coming into the movie and going, get out, don't see this movie.
Oh, sure.
And so like stripping away audience members in that way. So yeah, it was a flop. Did not make any money.
Yeah.
And but like I said, is I think becoming more well understood as time goes on.
I think so. I don't think that this film deserves to be maligned that much. I've seen some really bad films, and I don't think that this belongs on that list. Yeah, and I don't think that this belongs on that list. I think maybe it went to a lot of places that maybe people weren't. I think it's very 70s in a lot of ways, but I think that maybe it was so upfront about its themes, and it was so out there that people were just like, they had no idea what they were dealing with.
Yeah. I don't want to give away the review or summarize it just yet, but I will say that, a guy like John Borman is a singular creator. I think if he had restrained his comedic impulse, or not comedic, just his artistic impulses more, if he had done more what people would have expected out of him, I bet he would have done a lot more movies, but we wouldn't be talking about him.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean.
And so, he was an inventive guy, and before this, he had done Point Blank with Lee Marvin, and he had directed a movie called Hell in the Pacific with Lee Marvin and Toshiro Mifune, two really big hits. He then did Deliverance, which was nominated for an Academy Award. Mm-hmm. And so at that point, he's writing the ticket, right? He can do whatever he wants.
Right.
He chose to do this.
Yes.
So he wanted to get this out.
He wanted to do
And then after this, he didn't really have to do this, but he made Exorcist 2. He made a sequel to a movie that literally everybody's dead at the end of it. Or, not everybody, but there's just, how do you sequelize Exorcist 2? And he went for it on that. Another movie that is often cited as one of the worst movies ever made.
I haven't seen that, but I know you've talked about that on another podcast.
I've seen it a couple times.
What can you say about that film without really getting into it?
A
too much?
Huge swing. You take Exorcist, which is a story that there's nothing really there other than, I don't know, obviously the God and the devil thing. The movie kind of comes down on devil's real, so I guess God's real too.
Okay,
but it's also like this, woman, and there's kind of a metaphor about the girl growing up, or going through puberty. I don't know. The thing is that Exorcist is just, it gives you what it is. It's scary. You got to get the devil out of this girl.
Right.
E2TH, as an author friend of mine calls it, to ennoble it, posits that what if what drew Pazuzu to, Reagan, was not that she was just an innocent young girl, but also she had these latent abilities. And he sort of posits an X-Men-like universe where there are gifted people all over the world that have powers beyond the ken of mortal men, and they're fighting against these demons. And it's like, hey, I would be on board, only the script is terrible. Richard Burton is drunk off his ass.
Oh, no.
And, what's her name is not that great of an actress. She can't carry it. So.
Okay.
But anyway, he went for it.
Yes.
And then was in director jail for a while.
Okay.
Then he came back and also went for it and made Excalibur, a movie that was not a great success when it came out. But today, people love that movie.
Yeah.
And also featured a lot of talent that would go on to do amazing things. So he had an eye for that.
Yeah.
And then you think oh, he's dead. There's just no way he can do anything or come back. And he makes Hope and Glory, which is a comedy drama war film.
What?
Which was nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Original Screenplay. So you can't keep this guy down. He is the Weeble.
Okay, I'm writing that one down because that's not on my list, and that sounds like something I should see. Deliverance is on my list, and I think it has been on my list for a while. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so anyway, yeah. So and after that, I don't know, it kind of not declines, but it kind of goes down after that. Most of his big swings are over after that.
Sure.
But he's still making, but he's not making comic book movies. He's not making taking, best-selling spy books or something and doing that. He's still doing interesting stories, a lot of political stories, stories about like, lesser known wars. And I don't know what his thing is with Ireland because I don't know his life story, but a lot of stories about like movies about the IRA, movies about like Irish history.
I wonder if his family history is like family
Possibly.
from Ireland or something like that.
Possibly.
Yeah.
But
interesting.
Yeah, that's what he's up to.
Or just really likes Ireland.
But as far as like swings go, this is his swing.
Yeah.
Put on your safety helmet and try and tell me what happens in Zardoz.
Oh dear God, what happens in Zardoz? What do we think about when we think about Zardoz? Oh, we think about a lot of things. There's a lot of
think about a guy in a
really strong
red
imagery.
diaper and bandoliers.
Yeah. Okay.
Knee-high boots.
Yeah. So, Zardoz is, I don't even know where this takes place exactly. I don't know if we get told that. Anyways.
It's shot in Ireland.
Well, yeah. But like, where this place is
Probably
supposed
the British
to be.
Isles. Everybody has an accent.
Yeah, that's true. So this big stone head is supposedly the god Zardoz. And he has these followers who wear basically stone masks that are either depicted as being white or red, that are basically smaller depictions of his face, and red Speedos or diapers, as you said, and red bandoliers and boots that go over the knee. They're like brown boots.
Is this the kind of detail that you should be getting bogged down in when you're describing Zardoz?
Probably not. But I'm just trying to paint a picture here. And he comes on in the very beginning. The god is like, okay, listen up. I don't know why he's telling his followers this. They know.
The gun is good.
Yeah, the gun is good.
The penis is evil.
Yes. And so he's talking about how the penis shoots seeds, and that's bad. And his followers need to kill everyone who procreates, because that's what Zardoz wants him to do. And then he literally vomits guns and ammo.
He barfs guns.
This is the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Fun fact, they had a lot of trouble getting guns or prop guns into Ireland for the movie
Jesus.
Because of the troubles.
Okay.
So you're like,
wow.
What is this? It's movie stuff. Okay, let me look inside. What is this?
Yeah, right.
Who are you?
Sure this is movie stuff?
No, this is for a movie.
Yeah.
What happens in the movie? Oh, a bunch of guys in diapers rape and kill. Oh, okay.
Cool. Yeah, I know. And Zed, who is played by Sean Connery, he hides in the head in the grain, and the head floats away, and he is trying to figure out what's going on. And
I'm trying to figure out why you skipped the opening of the film.
Oh, right. Zardoz, who is a moving disembodied head that's like a screensaver bopping around.
All right, when he hits the corner, we win.
Yeah, right. He's telling us that he's Zardoz, and he's painting the scene for us and everything.
He is, but he is also immediately setting up the remove of alienation. He's telling you that this is a fiction.
Yes.
He tells you that right away. He says that this is most satirical, and it's a cautionary allegory, and I am not real. I am playing a role.
Right.
I am an actor, and that's why my beard is drawn on in Sharpie.
Yes,
and
exactly.
And he concludes by saying, I'm playing a god, but is God in show business too?
Right, and
Which
you're
is
just kind of like,
all right, John, you're high on that banjo money. Now you're going to make the audience squeal like a pig. So sorry, go ahead.
Oh my gosh. So he gets in there, and there's a bunch of naked people in plastic, whatever. Anyways.
Yeah, we never find out what that is.
Nope.
Are those just we'll get to it later.
Yeah, I think maybe. But he sees Zardoz, and he immediately kills him. Or the guy who's
Arthur Frayne,
who is the bopping head, and with the Sharpie beard, and the Zardoz head.
He gets a red Sharpie and draws the blood on. He's like,
right.
You shot me. This is where the blood would be.
But he falls out, and then the Zardoz head drops down, and he's in another area of this world, and he comes to meet this group of people. I think he gets like captured somehow. They capture him. I think maybe he tries attacking them.
Well, but he lands in this. The head lands at a farm, like a country estate.
It's essentially a farm / castle,
which was a real country estate in England. And he's hunting around. He's got a revolver. He's got a gun.
Yeah,
and he's trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah,
and then he gets scanned by May.
Oh,
remember,
right.
He runs into the lady.
Yes. Does he run into the lady who's riding on horseback?
He runs into. Yeah, I don't remember her name.
I don't remember her name.
No, you had it right the first time. He gets captured somehow.
He gets captured somehow. And then this lady May is like, she's grilling him and like asking him a bunch of. Oh no, wait. I remember before he gets captured, he finds like Arthur's like living quarters.
Oh,
and he's like messing around with stuff, and he finds his like crystal ring.
He's got an Alexa ring.
Yes, it's like an Alexa or Google. Like you can ask it questions, it'll answer you. And it also at the beginning it has like shows projections and stuff like that too, and it's talking about like different things that you have to drop off at different vortexes and everything. So I guess the Zardoz head just went around and did stuff.
Yeah.
But then he gets captured, and May is they're asking him a bunch of questions. They take his gun away, take his bandoliers away, and they're asking him a lot of questions in this weird room, which we later see as like this mirrored triangle that you have to drop down, and then there's like naked people on like either side. It's the tabernacle, and she's asking him
people. There's people in plastic bags.
Yeah.
So it's Yoko Ono's tabernacle.
Oh my God, probably. I bet Yoko Ono liked this movie.
I need to know what she thought about this movie, and I'm running out of time to ask her.
I think she liked it. But. So they're asking him a bunch of questions like, who are you? What are you doing here? What is your intention? That sort of thing. And he's not really answering them a whole lot.
Well, they can read his mind.
That's right. They can read his mind.
Yeah. And they see that, in his past, he was an exterminator. He was a guy that wore a red diaper and rode around on a horse like
and
the Border
raped
Patrol.
People.
And killed and raped, and that was like what was Zardoz, their god, commanded them to do. Mm-hmm. They're trying to figure out what's it really all about, though.
Yeah, right.
It's not all about the rape and murder, is it?
And then May is like, we've never seen anything like, or we haven't seen anything like him for a while, and it's a scientific experiment.
So you get the idea that this farm there's probably other farms like it, but it's the vortex.
Yes.
And what that means is that it's a bunch of people who in knit tops.
Knit or crochet tops.
They're all in crocheted women's tops, men and women.
Yep.
And they are an immortal race of beings who are intellectually enlightened, and they live inside these bubble communities, while outside it is a dystopia, a post-apocalyptic.
Yeah,
dystopia.
it's bad.
And so, it's bad. You're all wet in your slacks and your blazer or whatever.
Yeah,
just
right.
put like regular clothes on people because they're like, we only got $1 million, so just wear something you can get mud on.
I guess, yeah.
One guy's got jeans on. Wow, those are Levi's. Last a long time. This is the year 2293, by the way.
Oh, right. Forgot to mention that. I mean, at least
really
they put it in the future quite a ways. But yeah.
So and one thing they see is that the exterminators are not just killing people, but they have kind of stopped killing people, and now they're like making people farm. They're like forcing the other Brittles to farm, and they seem to be organizing.
Mm-hmm. And they want to know why that's happening, and they also decide that, you know, May can do her experiment for, like, they decide by 3 weeks. They do it by vote. They have, like, this one room that seems like it's like a college auditorium, except they all stand and they do presentations there.
Yeah, it's a real, like,
it's like,
oh man, this is the theater of the mind, man. It's like, you know, we got to clear out of here at 6 because that's when the Strawberry Alarm Clock comes in and is going to do a set.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Gosh, I can't remember her name, but there's this other character, Consuela, thank you, who opposes May, and she doesn't.
She's technically May's boss, I think.
Is she?
Yeah.
Oh, that wasn't made very clear.
May is like the research, the junior assistant.
Okay. But she doesn't really like that he's here, and she thinks that he should just be killed, and she doesn't like any of it. But then
but she really likes him, though.
Apparently. I don't know.
Because that's how that works.
Yeah.
This is their meet cute.
Yeah.
Or is there meet cute later when she gives him a boner? Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah. Well, I was going to get to that. She, like, shows this.
Are we going to talk about Eternals? Let's talk about this the entire time. Come on. Screw Eternals.
Wow.
Eternals is Zardoz with less tits. That's the pull quote. You can put my name on it. That's fine. Sorry, go ahead.
No, she does this whole presentation about, like, well, we've outgrown sex, but we don't really know.
Yeah, that's the thing. They are beings of pure intellect, basically, and they don't.
And they're immortal.
Fight. They don't and they live forever. They don't really die. Although if you do something bad, they punish you by
making
aging
you a renegade.
You do time, literally.
Yeah. And
if you die, also they have backups of you. So he's killed Arthur Frayne at the beginning of the movie.
Yes.
But they reveal that, you know,
they're growing a baby.
There's an embryo, Arthur Frayne, that's growing.
I guess too, like, I think being given the designation renegade is worse than just being aged, because they can age you like 5 years or a couple months or what have you. But if you're a renegade, that means not only are you, you know, sentenced to be aged, you're outcast.
They sequester you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically she's doing this presentation.
We're not, this has just become, sometimes we do a summary and then we talk about
I know.
We'll just put it all in.
Okay.
So I don't know anything about Borman's politics. I know I love his art. So I assume that I probably agree with his politics, but I don't know. But this is a criticism of geniocracy, or like too much intellectualism, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I don't think the movie comes down on either side.
No.
Brutals versus Eternals.
No.
And they're called the Eternals.
They are called Eternals.
And we could not have planned that.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about it in a bit. Eternals, first published 1976. Jack, you like going to the movies, Jack?
Come on.
I don't think the movie comes down on either side, but it definitely, I think the movie is in love with, or maybe the camera is, with the violent masculinity of Zed, Sean Connery as Zed.
Yeah, it's definitely
and the Eternals, they might have green bread, but you get the sense that they're just a bunch of, like, you know, crystal waving, meditating panty waists, right?
Yep.
Like, it is a criticism of
hippie culture.
I
think so too.
And it's also a criticism of, like, ineffectual democracy, because they're all making these dumb votes about stuff.
Yeah.
There's this one thing. George Seddon is such an interesting character. He's that face that keeps appearing, and he's apparently on trial somewhere.
Yeah.
And so all the communities are voting on it.
Yeah.
And he's accused of transmitting a negative aura, which is basically just having bad vibes, man.
Yeah,
You're harsh and mellow out here.
Yeah, right.
And at first he denies it, but later on we see that he's like, I confess to it, you know?
Yes.
And he's basically like, we need to, you know, burn all this down. We've become sedentary. We've become, like, stagnant in our culture. And we later learn that this guy that is kind of ordering Zed around, he's kind of like his workmaster, is a character named Friend. We learn that he is also kind of a subversive.
Yes.
But he's on the fence. I think that he's got ideas about how we could
make it better.
Just make it better. Tear it all down. Because all these immortals want is death, because their lives are just eating green
They're
bread
meaningless.
and not boning.
Yeah.
But everybody's tits are out.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and I just thought that was really interesting. Like, the first time we see his trial, the George Seddon's trial, he's like, I was accused of psychic violence, but it's not true. Examine my face. Clearly. Like, he's just trying to plead with these people, but not plead.
Yeah.
He's literally pleading.
Yeah.
But if you plead, it's like the Vulcans kicking
Psychic
you out
violence.
for crying in a movie or something like that.
Right.
And
right.
that sounds horrible. That sounds like a dictatorship of no emotion,
Yes. Of thoughts as well.
Yeah.
Like, because he just had negative thoughts.
Yeah. He's like, I hate Mondays.
It's not even like he shared them with anybody necessarily.
Right.
They're just like, whoa, bad aura.
So that's right. He blames it on the head wound that he suffered on his third death, that he was put back together wrong. He tries to plead to something in the system made me do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's like, when you're just looking at a guy in a ponytail and a diaper, you don't get these things the first time.
No.
Like, watching Zardoz rewards you over and over again. I'm not saying it's a complicated satire.
Not necessarily.
But it is a satire.
It is. It definitely is.
Oh, did we mention the apathetics?
No, we haven't gotten to the apathetics yet. Basically, Zed is delivering bread, but like, this great scene where Zed and Friend go out delivering bread, and Friend is just sitting in this carriage. It's like a rickshaw type carriage because Zed has to power it. And they've got all this bread in the back, and it
felt like, not to interrupt you, but
go ahead.
To add, it felt like a colonialism situation. I can imagine. I haven't read a lot of Rudyard Kipling, but I can imagine a situation where the British officer or dandy has a man that does all the stuff for him, and he says like, "Oh, you probably don't even know what the poems of Wordsworth, do you? You know, you savage." You know, they have this kind of dynamic like that. And
it is
like,
yes.
Oh, I'm just gonna move this bread around, I guess.
Yeah, like he's treated like a lesser than because he's not an eternal. And, you know, oh, you're just good for brute strength and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Look at all the tits around here. You probably like that, huh?
Yeah, right.
Go get yourself some tits.
Yeah. So they meet after they circle around to the old folks, and they just basically let them steal bread out of the back.
Yeah.
And they
grab your bread, assholes.
Yeah, it's like, wow. And like all the elderly people are like in formal wear, and
yeah,
like,
they're at like a party,
hall,
like a prom.
It's because they like to party because wow, they're so out there.
Well, I think it's like this like a sad sort of faded, you know.
I guess
it's this party with like dancing and tuxedos, but they're old. They'll never be able to enjoy it. It's like this mockery of like what they have given up, you know, by being rebels.
But I don't really get the feeling that the Eternals have parties.
No, they don't.
You know?
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, why is that what they decide to punish them with?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but then they circle around to this other part, like this village area where the apathetics are, and they're young people, but they're apathetic. So they're just literally frozen, and they're not moving. There's no emotion and everything.
There are other Eternals who have like gone into this fugue state because they don't, you know, do it. They don't screw. They don't have fun. They don't do anything.
It's a quote unquote disease, and there's no cure for it. You know, and so Friend is like, yeah, go ahead, do what you want. And so Zed, being the
a little squicky,
I just don't like this. But he grabs one of the apathetic's boobs, and like Friend is like, just do whatever you want with her. And like so Zed like grabs her and like is gonna have sex with her, but then is like turned off because she is not only non-responsive, but she's like limp,
which is weird because if she was kicking and screaming, that would be all right.
I don't know how to feel about it.
not a hero. He might be our protagonist, but he's not a hero.
He's not. And then he like throws her in the hay.
Okay, now the actress got extra for that, didn't she?
Because
that is not. They could not afford a lifelike mannequin. He just tossed that chick into that hay bale.
He totally did.
Yeah.
But yeah, and they just so basically like they just feed these people. They don't really. Well,
they keep them alive, but yeah.
They don't really take care of the
Is this the are we in the first act still?
Or the apathetics? What?
Are we in the first act still?
I don't know.
We might be.
Let's
see if we can move this along a little bit.
Yeah.
So there's this room where they all sit at this round table.
Yep.
It speaks for itself, probably.
Yeah.
It's also mirrored, so it's like a giant Coke table, basically.
So much Coke.
And they have dinner, but they also philosophize and vote on things. And we have an incident where Friend gets in trouble because he's really just being a prick, but he is sort of like criticizing having Zed around, and he's trying to get on to May, and everybody decides that we make a vote about whether we should continue the experiment with the brutal Zed or end it. Mm-hmm. And everybody's like on board, and Friend has a violent reaction to what's going on.
Like he doesn't want to commune with them. Yeah.
By like they give him they do the scanner on him.
Yeah.
The scanners.
Yeah.
And he's like, you're going to go to second. I will not go to second level with you.
Yes.
I will not go to a second location with you.
Yeah. Right.
And so that's we get the idea that he's not happy with what's going on.
No. And then he basically loses consciousness, and like Zed is like, where the heck did he go? And they kept saying renegade, so they're gonna make him a renegade.
It quickly becomes he's out.
And so Zed goes to find him, and he's like looking for a friend, and that's like the first time I realized that's what the character's name was.
Yeah, I don't think they say it until then.
Which I was just so weirded out by. But he finds him, and like half of his face
they've aged
is
half
young,
of him,
but like half of his face is old, and it's unsettling.
Yeah,
I think on purpose. But Friend is not happy to see him.
No. But Friend introduces him to, I think this is this scene, right? He introduces him to this other guy, like the oldest guy there, who's bedridden.
And none of them can die. That's the first time we really learn that.
Just because they're old, doesn't mean they can die. They're eternally old. And so he introduces him to this guy who's like one of the chief architects of their way of life, who used the tabernacle to create the vortex. And I think at some point, it doesn't really matter when, but at some point we find out that like, this is all the society, or this slice of society as we see it, is what's left of whatever we were before previously. The apocalypse happened. Mm-hmm. And so the tabernacle is actually like a spaceship that was supposed to explore space. And Zed's like, well, what'd you do? He's like, well, we went out there, and we're like, huh, that's cool. And we just came back. Yeah. Like this sort of like lack of passion and feeling was already in the society, and so the tabernacle has been repurposed as like running their little weird bubble society,
right? And we see flashbacks to them, like
we see that there are older men who are now the oldest men, that are the renegades, but they were middle-aged men. And I think there's an interesting metaphor here in that like this society was like our current society, but definitely in the 70s, arguably still now, our society, which was shaped by, the greatest generation, by, hey, okay, boomer, shaped by these older people. And then they've training the younger people up in the same way. And so you've got like the straights who want to keep things the way they are. And then you've got like renegades and also apathetics who are like younger generations who either are trying to revolutionize for a new future or are just dropping out, tuning in, turning on and dropping out. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of smart.
Yeah, it is. And
back to the boobs.
I don't think that people gave it credit for that at this time. Well, because there is so much boobs in
There's so much to get through. Like if this was more conventionally staged, costumed,
it's so out there.
It was supposed to star Burt Reynolds. Can you imagine Burt Reynolds? There's something about, Burt Reynolds as Zed.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that either. But anyway, this is what we got. So long story short, these experiments continue with May.
Yeah.
She takes him to the room in the tabernacle, and they're kind of doing, it's kind of like psychoanalysis, isn't it?
Seems like it.
She's reading his mind. She's trying to get his interpretations on stuff. And she learns this story from Zed about how he came to be here.
Yep.
And while he was being a brutal and an exterminator, he was having a good time. And he one day met a man who led him into a library. Mm-hmm. And like slowly, we assume over the course of, days, months, maybe years,
right,
taught him to read.
Yep.
And he began to read all these books. And eventually he found a book called The Wizard of Oz.
Yep.
And then realized that Zardoz is a corruption of The Wizard of Oz.
Yep.
And he's not a film fan, so he's not rolling his eyes at that. But he had the idea of a character in a future movie stealing something from a Frank Baum book. But he does roll his eyes at the fact that this god they've been following the whole time is fake and is based on this children's book. Yeah. And that inspires him and other people like him. We learn that, I don't know if all the exterminators are or just some of them.
Some of his friends at the very least.
But we learn that Arthur Frayne, in an attempt to create an avatar that could destroy his civilization, has been selectively breeding, exterminators and brutals to create brutals who have, the same potential for psychic powers and mental aptitude, but are also big and strong and have guns. Right. And so it isn't like a betrayal. It isn't like he found out and he's like, oh, screw you. Arthur Frayne wants to be shot. He planted this so Zed would feel betrayed and disillusioned in his God and religion, because it's the 1970s.
Yep.
And then would come up with this plan where he meant to get into the big head. He meant to shoot Arthur Frayne, and he is here infiltrating the vortex in order to take his revenge or just tear it all down.
Yeah, right. And his friends helped him, and then we find out from, I think it's from May, that he's a mutant, or do we find that out later from Arthur when he comes back?
I think it's in this scene, because she's like, we learn it's kind of like downplayed, but like he's a mutant. He doesn't have magic powers. He's just he has been engineered to be very smart.
As X-Men.
Yeah. Compared to the troglodytes outside the bubble, like he is, a mutant.
Right. And then he basically is asking May for help.
This is where the movie goes bug nuts. This is where it really comes apart.
Oh, this is where it becomes bug nuts.
Yeah, eat this leaf. She gives him like a leaf. He, at this point, Consuela and the other Eternals, after, renegading Friend, realize that Zed is the splinter in the eye here. We need to get rid of Zed. And so they start hunting for him, but they also start destroying their own civilization to try to get rid of him. So they're burning the houses of the apathetics. And then there's another faction of other people who are dissatisfied that are connected to May and Friend, who start fighting on the other side of it. The old people get out. It just turns into a 3-ring circus.
Yes.
And the movie hasn't even hit like its next level yet.
I know.
Because they dress Sean Connery up in a wedding dress.
Yeah.
To disguise him.
Yep.
And they take him to Friend, who he meets in this other area. We don't know what it is. It's like a house or something, and it's a repository of all this knowledge. So there's all these statues of like mythological figures and world leaders and stuff like that. Some of them are real people who are dressed up like them for some reason. And then we really get the juice in, right? Then a bunch of women come to him, led by May, and they both give him their knowledge in this very long but kind of cool scene. And also have sex with him. Yeah. Although we don't really see that, but like, because the idea is that they also need like his mutant babies to survive on the outside. Right. Because once they do that and they imbue him with all the knowledge that he needs and make him like the ultimate man, they're going to take off and try to survive out in the outside.
Yeah. And the scene it's really interesting. I think it's very artsy in a way.
I think it goes on a little long.
It does.
But I like what they're doing.
Yeah, and it's like these women are reciting poetry and like passages and singing songs and stuff like that. And like
yes, they are.
And then on naked women's bodies, there's like projections of
a little From Russia with Love.
Yeah, a little bit. But there's visual art, there's music like sheet
roses.
Music.
Yeah. Sheet music, yeah.
I guess I don't know, like it's music written out,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. I don't know, I think it's kind of interesting.
I mean, if he's our everyman, he's our pilgrim that's progressing here, right? And so now at this point, he's been given the knowledge, he's been given the tools, and he changes clothes.
Yes.
He takes off his bandoliers.
At this point,
and he puts on his own crocheted top.
Yeah.
And now he is
it's
like...
It's not crocheted.
Well, no,
yeah.
it's kind of like, a deep V kind of cool thing.
Yeah.
Show off the rug still.
Of course.
And he become the synthesis of these two worlds.
Yes.
But then he learns the truth because he starts talking to the tabernacle, which is the main computer that is everybody accesses with their ring things.
Yep.
And he learns that, the computer is an AI and it is aware of what's going on and it is trying to maintain this system of control. And he realizes to really free humanity and break this thing down, he has to destroy that as well.
Yep.
So in the end of the first act, or however you want to break it up, he kills God. Actually, he kills God in the first 5 minutes. He kills
God right away.
But his idea of a God is destroyed. We learn in the flashback. And then he has to kill science, too. And I thought that was interesting. Because if it really... I know that it's created this dystopian society, but it represents intellectualism. It represents all this stuff. And he has to and it reminded me of just killing the Buddha, if you meet the Buddha on the road, killing your teacher, dying to yourself, killing what you know.
Yeah.
You think it'd be enough to make a statement about killing God and cool, we've got a nice subversive movie, but then he has to destroy knowledge and destroy science. I thought that was really interesting.
It is really interesting.
Meanwhile, everybody's killing each other outside.
Yeah, it
nuts.
Is.
And his brutal friends finally get in through the shield and just gun everybody down.
Meanwhile, Consuela is on horseback with fire, and they're all just burning things down and destroying things.
Charlotte Rampling went to horse camp. She was having a lot of fun with that.
Oh yeah,
you could tell that she knew what she was doing.
Yeah,
on that horse.
Yeah, for sure. And they eventually break into Friend's place with the statues and everything, and we see a whole bunch of Eternals breaking statues and making a huge mess of things, and eventually Consuela finds her way back to Zed, and she's about to attack him, and then she's like, "Oh wait, I love you," and I'm like, "What?"
Yeah, kind of a quick turn.
Yeah, kind of really a quick turn. But she I guess pledges her love to him, hey, I will be with you and I will give you love, and he's like, I haven't experienced that before because he hasn't.
Yeah.
And she
and we even about the kill yourself thing, or killing all the things. Then he gets into a Lady from Shanghai sequence where he's going through all the mirrors. I think this is how he kills the tabernacle ultimately.
Yeah,
because he shoots something, and in the vision it's him. So he's sort of killing himself as well.
And it bleeds.
But and the mirror
glass bleeds. Yeah,
but somehow that, maybe kills the idea of self. It's all Eastern philosophy, man.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And
then
cool.
he has the tuning power after that.
Yeah, right.
Because all the guys come in and break all the stuff, and then he reverses time.
Yeah,
and gets May and all of her rebels out of there.
Right, but Consuela gives her ring to Zed as her pledge, and then he's like, okay, you guys all need to get out of here, or he makes them invisible somehow as he makes everybody else go rewind in time, and then they leave.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got it.
Okay.
I don't see the problem.
Yeah, and then May and her followers, who are all pregnant with Zed's children, leave on horseback, and the other exterminators are. Oh no, wait. The chick who was topless in the beginning on the horse is giving a speech in the pond, and she's
kind of like the secretly the spiritual leader, I think, of the rebels,
and
because she first encounters Zed. She's the first person he meets, and does not have a shirt on for some reason, but she's like happy to see him. It isn't like, oh, well, how'd this guy get in here? I think she knows that it's like, this is it. This is the start.
Probably. Yeah. And she's the one who gives him the leaf that he needs to eat at one point to get his strength. Oh, because the apathetics, when he runs into them later, he gives them their strength and their vitality back or something like that. Like,
oh yeah, that's right. They taste his sweat.
They taste his sweat, and then
Connery sweat,
and then
the new energy drink.
They want to have sex with each other and stuff like that, and be violent, and
it turns into a real happening.
Yeah. It's like, okay, whatever. So while everybody's attacking each other, the apathetics are having sex.
And someone says, I can't remember who now, but someone says the voice of the turtle is heard in our land.
What? I don't remember that.
After they get them out and escape. And I was like, what the hell? It's a quote from Song of Solomon in the Bible.
Oh.
And it's about...
Okay.
Song of Solomon is the sexy book of the Bible. Because it is written, ostensibly by Solomon, to his lover. And so there's a lot of... It's love poetry, basically. And that sequence goes, flowers appear on the earth, the season of singing is come, the cooing of doves is heard in our... So it's supposed to be like turtle doves.
Oh, okay.
Is heard in our land. And fig trees form their fruit and vines spread their fragrance. And so it's about like a renewal, even though we are witnessing
everything break
mass
down.
shooting.
Yeah. So the spiritual leader chick who's giving a speech, she had asked Zed before to set her free, which he interpreted as killing her with his gun.
Yes.
And so he was going to do it, and people were like, what? And he kind of like hesitated, and then she gets shot from behind, and it's the other exterminators have arrived.
Killing everybody.
They just start shooting everyone. So Zed just, is like, F this, I'm getting out of here, and grabs Consuela, and they run to a cave. And
I didn't get this, but the cave is supposed to be, it's the head. They go back to the crashed head. Yeah.
I didn't get that either.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Huh. So Zardoz gave him refuge, and he was able to live out the rest of his life because of Zardoz.
We'll talk about it. Let's talk about the ending sequence, and then we'll talk about it.
Okay, so then there's this is what, surprisingly, the ending sequence is what has stuck with me the most over the years, even though there's
Beethoven's
so much...
Seventh Symphony, which gets really, they get their money's worth out of that in this.
Well, I just mean like the imagery and stuff. So, basically, Consuela and Zed kiss, and then the next thing we know, the sequence is, you see her pregnant stomach, and she's calling for him, and then it's images of like she's had her baby, and she's breastfeeding the baby, and it's her and Zed, and then it's like snapshots of them as they age, including their son. And then like he gets to be like he's a teen or a young man, and he wants to leave, and she like grabs him like she's not ready for him to go, and then Zed's like, like let him go, and so she lets him leave, and her and Zed hold hands, and then they kind of shrink. And as they get older, and then they
not like doll man.
No, but like as they get older, they get a little smaller, and then there's two skeletons with hair on them, and then there are two. I think maybe the skeletons are kind of broken down even more,
piles of bones.
Boy,
the son didn't even bury him.
No, I don't think he ever came home after he left. And then there's like two handprints on the cave or I guess head wall with a gun stuck next to it.
Yeah.
The end.
It's really deep, man.
Yeah.
So he learns that God and religion are not what he thought.
Yep.
Which, for a primitive person who believes in like sky gods or whatever, and then goes, wait a minute, we could probably make some of this fire if we wanted to. Mm-hmm. It's like the beginning of wisdom. Then he realizes that wisdom is not an end into itself. Mm-hmm. It is the beginning of, smarts is the beginning of real wisdom,
Yep.
And then he, kills the idea of himself. Then in the story of the film, he destroys this stagnant society.
Yep.
And then what's left to do but have a real normal one.
Yeah, right.
And so we fast forward it because the movie's over, but like we have this little microcosm of
yes.
a man and a woman, come together, live together, have a child. The child
yes.
goes on and it propagates and they pass away like they're supposed to.
Yep.
And then the last thing is like the gun is there because the gun is kind of what there's always going to be violence inherent in man's nature. That's what started this whole thing off.
Yep.
And then the handprints are, I think referencing the idea that some of the earliest cave paintings that we've ever seen,
are handprints.
Thousands of years back are handprints. Just somebody saying, I was here.
Yeah. Wow. It's
super deep.
I know. And what's more important really than saying I was here? I mean, why do we
well,
why do we sign yearbooks?
You
know what I mean?
The reason
stuff like
you
that.
say I was here is because you're not there anymore.
Yeah.
Because you
right.
have a life and you pass on and you create children and
yeah.
and then you go away and you don't stick around and eat green bread like an asshole.
I know.
Would you recommend this movie?
Yes.
I absolutely would too.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think it's a really good movie. And does not deserve to be on this list of the worst movies.
I'm not saying the delivery system is perfect. I think it'd be easy to recoil at some of the imagery and the esoteria that is on display. But
yes.
you can't deny that the themes are universal.
Yeah. Well, I mean...
that turtle is talking all over the place.
Oh my gosh.
Come on.
Well, we didn't even talk about their examination. What turns somebody on?
How do boner work?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's...
Here's my PowerPoint presentation. And
13-part
we're trying
series
to find out
on the boner.
Yeah.
Cue the mud wrestling. Well, I know for a fact that Marvel doesn't know how boners work until now. 2021 brings us Eternals.
Yes.
Like Ramones.
Yep.
Just Eternals.
Yep.
A movie directed and large part written by Chloe Zhao.
Yes.
Who is a up-and-coming filmmaker. Very exciting. The prospect of a real auteur making one of these things.
I know.
And hopefully not too handcuffed by the Marvel machine.
Mm-hmm.
What happens in Eternals?
I'm going to be a little hard pressed to do it all in the exact order that happens in the film because there are spoilers, a lot of flashbacks.
And we're not going to, we're just going to give,
right. I'm going to
general
try
idea.
not to spoil it too much.
We'll spoil stuff at the end.
Okay. So basically they're a superhero team, who, I guess they wouldn't necessarily think of themselves that way. Anyways, they're a group of 10 people who are Eternals, and they all follow the celestial Erisham, and Ajak is the leader, and Ajak is the one who actually talks to Erisham, and they are going on this. At the beginning, we see that they're going to this mission to Earth, and they arrive in, I think, 5000 BC. And we see them through periods throughout time, but basically they're there because they need to fight the deviants, who are set up to be the I guess, villains. I mean, they're kind of beast-like creatures in this for the most part, and they're attacking the people of Earth, and so we want to prevent that, and so they're there to kill them and everything, and I think by the 1500s they have killed them all, but they were told that they could not interfere with anything on Earth unless it involved the deviants.
Yeah. I think they're also there to kind of
observe.
You lend a supporting hand to humans because they are
yeah,
there.
That's true.
In prehistoric times, not like caveman fight dinosaur. I know they didn't coexist with dinosaurs, but I'm just saying, like, before people are really recording history all that much.
Right.
So this is a very kind of nascent society of man, and they're there to like help out, but not like rule over them or something like that.
Right, and not push them along too much before they're ready either.
Yeah.
So we get that pretty early on, and then
there's one scene. This isn't a spoiler. This is just a good scene. And there's one scene where Phaistos is the sort of maker. He's the machine and gadget guy.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, check this out. I came up with this really great thing. It's an engine and it runs off of steam. And if they put stuff in here, the steam comes out. It does a lot of work. This is going to be really great for them. And Ajax's like, it's like 7,000 BC. I don't think this is going to be really good for them.
Right.
Let's do something a little simpler. And he's like, fine. It's a plow.
I know.
It digs dirt. Because it's a plow.
I know.
He's just all pissed that he can't like go crazy.
But it's great. I really like it. I guess another really big part of this movie is, at least in some part, is that Circe and Icarus start this relationship with each other pretty early on, and we're with each other for a really long time. And then we fast forward to present day. They're no longer together, but they've all kind of separated, and they're kind of all more or less doing their own thing. We do meet Circe and Sprite are together in London, and Circe is dating Dane Whitman, who is a human, and
I do want it.
Yeah, played by Jon Snow. That's not his real name.
I want it pretty bad.
Yeah, right. But they get attacked by a deviant, and so and Circe has been kind of trying to figure out how she was going to break it to Dane that she's not human, and like also really old and like lived thousands of years and all of that, but she wasn't sure how to do it. And then this deviant appears, and it's like, well, I guess we got to fight it right now. So it's kind of we'll talk about it. But they're trying to fight it and everything, and then Icarus, who Circe's ex, like shows up and helps fight it too, and then there's this whole thing, and like the movie basically starts off and it's like, okay, the deviants are back, so we should reassemble the team and try to figure out a game plan. And that's kind of like the first part of the movie, more or less. I mean, should I say anything else?
Well, they start to learn that like something is happening here, because they remember they see things from the long view. They've lived for thousands of years, so 500-600 years ago, they solved this problem. Like they got rid of all the deviants, but also began to see that humanity was reaching a certain point where there's always been violence, but like the violence seems more directed and organized now. It's specifically there's a set piece where they are at the fall of Tenochtitlan, which I thought was really interesting because Salma Hayek as a Mexican actress, this is like when Spanish Western forces came and destroyed like the natural civilization and population of Mexico. And so at that point they had kind of become riven as a group, because some of them are like, look, man, all we do is just sit and watch them do this. We've done this for years. And some of them are like, I'm tired of watching them kill each other. I want to do something about it. And so they become kind of divided because of that reason as a group.
Right. Because Ajax's thing was like, we can't interfere, and not all of them agreed with that.
Yeah. That's our prime directive.
Yeah, right. And then didn't say, but
Now let's get our tits out. It's not.
Whoa.
It's not exactly like Zardoz, but a group of superpowered individuals who live ostensibly forever, who have knowledge beyond the normal man in society, and are existing at sometimes amongst primitive men, but even during modern day, still see regular humans as being kind of backwards and Neanderthalish
or
because they
lesser
don't
than.
possess the same abilities that they do.
Yeah.
These are the same film.
It's not
And
exactly
and their group
film,
becomes
but yeah.
divided because some of them feel like they need to take a more active role, and
Yes.
others of them feel like that's not their job.
That's true. It has a lot of it has a lot of very similar themes. I don't want to say they're exactly the same.
No, there are no celestials in Zardoz, although director's cut.
What do you consider the
put some celestials
tabernacle?
in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the tabernacle is kind of a celestial, isn't it?
Would you consider Zardoz, before we find out that he's a fake god, to be like a celestial?
Well, we don't really deal with the question of God so much. And that's something that I think is really interesting about Eternals as a premise. So Jack Kirby came up with this in the mid-70s. And there was a very popular book at the time called Chariots of the Gods. And it was this, it has been kind of discredited or at least sort of looked down upon in following years. But this guy posited the idea that, what if a lot of our ideas about gods and, I don't know, how'd they build the pyramids, that kind of thing. It's the guy with the aliens, only this is in the 70s. That guy probably grew up reading this. And it was positing that maybe aliens visited us. Maybe that explains some of these similarities in cultures around the world or our ideas about, gods and things like that. I think in intervening years, we've just realized that there are a lot of similarities because black, white, red, or brown, we all think very similarly. We all think the same. And so we come up with sun gods and we build pyramid type shaped things because they look cool, and it's easier to put more things on the ground and less things on top, so you got a pyramid.
True.
So people aren't really into the Chariots of the Gods, but it influenced a lot of thinking and a lot of sci-fi, and specifically Jack Kirby loved that idea. And so he at DC, once he left Marvel, went to DC, created the new gods. Darkseid, Allfather, Orion, Light Ray, all these other characters who were, I don't know how much of a connection they had to Earth. I'm not actually a big New Gods guy, but they all in their own way kind of represented pigeon versions of our gods, or our gods were like perverted versions of the archetypes that they represent. Well, DC canceled New Gods, and Jack Kirby got pissed and came back to Marvel and went, let's do it again. And so he created the Eternals. The idea that there were these superhumans that always lived on Earth, were designed and put here by the Celestials to battle the Deviants, which also the Celestials designed. And that's the thing. And so it doesn't spoil anything to say that they've changed that origin for the movie.
They have.
And I always thought mostly because how is like this 50% crazy Christian country going to react to the idea that, man was essentially subhuman until giant space robots tinkered with our DNA and created, the modern man, or at least allowed us to evolve into modern man. Not great, right? You notice the word evolution's never used in this movie. Although I guess X-Men never had a problem with it, because how do you do X-Men without evolution?
But they do the slightest possible, Easter egg to evolution, because when she's coming to the History of Museum, she's like, she sees the head bust of Charles Darwin, Museum,
and she's like, "Oh, sorry, I'm late, Charles," or whatever.
Almost as if she knew him or something.
Nice. There are. Here's a spoiler. Actually, we're doing the review right now.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things in this movie that's like, I don't want a whole scene with Charles Darwin, but I want to know that that I know that that's what you're doing.
Yeah, right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There are a lot of very subtle things in this.
Yes.
That you almost want to be bigger because it's a superhero movie.
Yep.
But anyway, so they've changed the origin and the nature of the Celestials, I think, to appease that. But then they spend the entire movie showing the Celestials essentially influencing all parts of human history up till now. So we would never forget like where we came from genetically. We would never be where we are. They stopped just short of them like looking at 3 crosses on a hill and going, he was a nice guy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like they stopped just short of that.
I know.
By showing us how they've always been there. And, Phaistos gave us like technology. It's clear that like, they helped us there. And so I don't know. They stopped the deviants from literally eating a bunch of people who might have been, I don't know, King Solomon or something someday.
Sure, right.
So they are part of our history. There's no way around that.
Yeah, absolutely.
We were talking before about how you do a movie like this, because we've got to give our review, or at least part of one, because we need to talk spoilers.
Yeah.
And the way I want to start that is, you and I were talking before about how you do a movie like this. You got a character who has to exist in an ongoing current narrative, but you want to make it clear that they did cool stuff in the past. And you also want a parallel narrative, or at least one that comments on the main one. And we went, they already made Highlander, so what's the point?
Right.
And this movie does not up to the standards of Highlander as far as that's concerned.
No.
There are past scenes. They are good scenes, but they are mostly kind of forgotten about once the modern action picks up. The past scenes don't really matter anymore.
Mostly.
To the point where, and I won't give it away in this part of the review, but to the point where they wedge one scene in, and it's like, oh boy, do we want to do this scene? Is this what you want to say about like their role in our history?
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm talking about,
Yeah, I do
right?
know what you're talking about. Yep.
And that has really nothing to do. It's just, we're going to meet another character and we need to know a little more about him. And so this scene is kind of wedged in.
Yes.
Instead of like showing us, they do a good job of showing like the Eternals being a family and having different personalities in the past. But it's not, you'd think that we would have like a core and they sort of break off maybe one by one as the years go on and they become disillusioned.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really do that.
No.
It's not, maybe there's a version of the script that does that. I think that'd be really great, but it's almost kind of like, well, how many like running things do we want to have here? This is a punch 'em up, right?
Yeah, so, exactly. I think they just were because it would have been so long, if we had done that.
Like probably. This podcast.
Okay. Yeah, so instead it's like you were saying, like there's that major schism, and that's kind of where they break off from each other after they have basically ridden the earth of, not even basically, they've ridden the earth of all the deviants, and then they basically just are like, well, our job here is done, so why are we sticking together? Even though a big part of this movie is they're stronger together is what they eventually come around to.
Yeah.
But.
So I think that they, here's how they succeeded. They succeeded in taking this goofy, crazy idea.
Yeah.
That honestly is so out there that like comic fans rejected it.
Sure.
And the Celestials have only really, the Celestials and the Eternals have only really played like an ancillary role in Marvel Comics. They'll just show up in other stuff, and been revived recently with that pretty good Neil Gaiman series.
Yeah. And
of course, I'm sure it's going to be a whole crossover now with them because they're in a movie, right, in comics. But they took this idea that was maybe a little too cerebral, a little too out there, and they humanized it, ironically.
They did.
And gave it warmth.
Yeah.
And made us care about these people while maintaining what I think is the core of what you're getting from an Eternal story, which is a bunch of like powerful, slightly sad people like watching human events unfold and, not being able to do anything about it. Like the Watcher, only the Watcher kicks ass now, doesn't he?
Apparently he
does. On an Iron Man suit and fly around.
Right.
What's your take?
I mean, I do think that, like, going off of what you were saying,
not on my watch.
Oh my God.
He literally says that.
I think that it was a good choice to make the character Cersei be so invested with humanity and to care about humanity so much from like the beginning, and to have that just be such a big part of her character, and it becomes very important to the plot later on.
Just getting that Jon Snow.
Yeah. Yeah, she is.
She's getting 8 inches of snow.
Oh
Come
my!
on.
Wow!
Look,
Wow.
it's there.
Who wants her to move in with him, and then there's like that great line, like she like tells him everything more or less really quickly, and he's like, look, if you don't want to move in with me, you could have just said so.
Yeah.
Which is really great, even though he's seen the deviant and everything, and I think he believes her. It's funny, it cuts the tension. It's good. There's some good comedic moments in this.
All right, look, we just have to spoil it, right? So
Yeah.
Here we are at whatever 2 hours in. We're gonna spoil things. I would say see this.
Yes, see this.
As per usual, the usual line for Marvel movies is, you're going to see it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to see it or not.
Yep.
And whatever is going on with these reviews, whether it's review bombing over having a deaf character or a gay couple, whatever's going on.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Trust me, these reviews are not true. It is, it's in my top 5 of Marvel movies. It is my new favorite Marvel movie. But that's me.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was very entertaining. I think it's
Not perfect.
Not perfect, and I think that maybe it deserves a rewatch from me because I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it overall, but I did enjoy it, and I would definitely recommend that you go see it.
All right, spoiler time. So just the first thing I can think of as a spoiler from what you were talking about before.
Yeah.
One of the weakest parts is her non-existent relationship with Dane. Like, I thought Kit Harington was going to be in this. There's too many characters already.
I think that's part of it.
If hopefully there's some big payoff in the future, but he didn't really even need to be in it, did he?
No.
And all the things they give them, like the whole, you won't move in with me. It's like, what kind of lame-ass Daniel Radcliffe romantic comedy beat is this? Do you know what I mean? Like, especially when not only does he find out that she is an Eternal, he's immediately cool with that. And it remains cool throughout the entire film.
Yeah.
And then also we learn later on, he is already a superhero because he is the heir to this force and the ebony blade, and he already knows about weird things in the universe. Plus, every time a giant monster came out, or a hand came out of the ocean, or a monster attacked somebody in Croydon or something like that, I was like, this is a world where half the people disappeared. You think about how jaded the Marvel universe is in the comics when they see Iron Man flying around all the time. We've talked about this before. 22 Marvel movies, and they've never really worried about what the public thinks about superheroes. Yep. The only time we ever get it is, I am Iron Man. Everybody seemed kind of excited about that.
Yeah.
And then 21 more movies, and we never once, there is no character to the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
No.
It is not a place in the way that New York is a character in this movie, right? And so maybe that works out because everybody's super jaded now and we don't have to get into it. But he's really not surprised that she is a 10,000-year-old robot lady.
No. Well, at that point, she doesn't know she's a robot lady. Yeah. But no, he's not surprised. I was disappointed by how little Kit Harington was in this because, like you were saying, why have this character in this at all if he's not going to really... And then, at the very end, he's, about to tell her, we're coming clean. I got to tell you something. Yeah, and then she gets snapped away.
Sequel bait, yeah.
I know it's sequel bait, but it made me angry because... I know he's the Black Knight. I know this. I read all of the...
We're all on the internet.
I know. But it just made me mad that didn't even come up at all, except at the cut scene at the end, and then the voice who you had to look up and tell me was Blade.
Yeah, Chloe Zhao had to do an interview and tell everybody it was Blade because nobody knew who it was.
No, exactly.
If he had said something like... before you pick up that sword, know the world is a sugar-coated topping.
Or something.
I know that they're probably going to distance themselves from the original Blade, but
probably
give us something that we can immediately connect to Blade.
Yes.
Show the back of his faded head or something like that.
Right.
Anything. Just to know what that is.
I know. I was
Plus,
just
he's British apparently, which I know the original Blade was British.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point.
Interesting that they want to go back to that, but that's fine.
Yeah. Is Mahershala Ali British?
No. I don't think so.
Oh. Oh,
I don't think so.
okay.
Be easy to look it up.
Interesting.
Not going
Yeah.
to.
Anyways.
No.
So, but he's not really technically the Black Knight yet,
Who
right?
knows?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Okay, we're spending too much time talking about this.
Yeah, this is... This guy's in the movie for 2 minutes.
But I was mad. I was mad about that.
Yeah. The change. So we talked about some of the changes in the non-spoiler section.
Yeah.
I didn't get into the full effect of that change, which is, I know that they want to expand and make it more cosmic and get out into space more.
Sure.
Although every time they go into space, it seems like they just come right back. Captain Marvel's like, I'm going to take these Skrulls out into space. I don't know what happens with that. She comes right back, destroys Thanos' ship.
Yep.
And the Eternals go into space with their big ship. And they're like, I didn't find anything. We're going back. Because Harry Styles told us to.
Well, they also are trying to meet...
Well, they're looking for Eternals on other worlds. Now,
yes.
In the comics, the Eternals or the Celestials, they're all Ulls. The Celestials, Inhuman-Ulls. No. There's the Uranians and the Titanians as well.
Oh my God.
The Celestials have gone to other worlds and done this.
Yeah.
But let me finish my first point. My first point was they go to all this trouble to remove the evolution and maybe God's not real like type thing, and then they have a movie where they just describe the Celestial as a god the whole time.
Pretty much.
Yeah, and then also
that's how I thought of the Celestials. So.
The effect of it is that they essentially they are not human. Mm-hmm. That was always the point of them, which was the Celestials made deviants, humans, and Eternals. Mm-hmm. And so humans are in the middle, but the Celestials and the deviants embody the impulses that we all have, the destructive impulses, but also the ability to elevate ourselves. The Celestials here we go again. The Eternals' power in the Kirby comics was also another 70s thing, which is all about like the power of the mind. And over hundreds of thousands of years, they've focused their mind power to be able to do all these things. And they all have the same powers, but some of them are better than others. Like Ajax has a bad pick. Ajax just talks to the Celestials. Makari has focused on his speed, and so therefore he is fast. Icarus has focused on flying and shooting lasers and being really strong. And so they're maybe a little better, but they're all invulnerable. They're all super strong. It's like Asgardians. Like they all have powers like Thor does. And so they changed it so they're space robots.
Yep.
And I think they did that partially. It's part of that, like, we don't want to get into the messy thing of them also being connected to humans, and the deviants are as well. You lose that. But you also get, like, weird space robots think they're human and therefore identify with us. And I don't know, for some reason, I think that that's also, like, a kind of cool thing.
It is a cool thing.
Yeah. Although they bleed and you can stab them, and like, so how are they like robots? I don't know. They're not really robots, but
I mean,
it kind of wipes out Aaron's stack. So here's the thing. When I open up the Marvel chest, here we're going to open up the Marvel chest.
Yeah.
In the 90s, mutants were really popular.
Yeah, sure.
And so Marvel said, how do we capitalize on this? And they got this writer, up and coming guy named Jim Kruger, and they said, you can do whatever you want, but it has to involve mutants. And Jim Kruger said, okay, I'm going to make a miniseries, and I'm going to call it Earth X. And basically, I'm going to reveal that everybody on Earth is a mutant.
Sure.
They're all mutants.
Okay.
Here's why. When the Celestials came to our planet, not only did they, like, uplift man and give him the potential to become intelligent, but they also placed, like, the ability... the potential for superpowers in every person.
Okay.
And so mutants are something where, for some reason, they're ahead of the evolutionary curve and they have these powers, but any person can have powers. And even Spider-Man, even the Hulk, even people who are non-mutants, the energy, the cosmic radiation, the spider bite has activated this like potential that the Celestials put in us. Here's the reason. And this is not normally in Marvel continuity. I think this was taken from Earth X because it's such a great idea. But the reason they did this is that means that planet will have superpowered humans who will love and cherish their planet. A planet which is incubating a celestial seed.
Right.
Which when the celestial is born will, destroy the planet and will continue
and everybody on it.
the Celestials' form of control over the whole universe. Now, they kept the essential parts of that, didn't they, for this film?
Yes, they did.
The cool thing is, and I can't believe this is perfect, you own all the shit now, but the cool thing is that means that what Galactus is really doing is not eating planets because he's hungry. He eats planets to destroy the celestial eggs because he is the ultimate rebel fighting against the Celestials.
Oh,
he is the Satan
God.
in the Celestials' heaven.
Wow.
Jim Kruger is a genius, by the way. I've met him.
Wow.
He's super nice, and he is very smart. And so he uses like this, I think it's 6, I don't remember how many it is, but he makes this miniseries, and in telling that amazing story about a post-apocalyptic Marvel universe where everybody's dealing with this shit, he also is being the Marvel Grant Morrison, and he is pulling in things from all over the place, So the Watcher is one of the main characters of the story.
Okay.
And at the beginning of the story, he is blinded.
That's bad.
So he can no longer watch because somebody's trying to hide something from him. And it turns out to
Okay.
be this whole thing. And then he takes another character. He takes Machine Man, who is a character that was created by Jack Kirby, kind of in the weird connection with the 2001 comic that was based on like the original screenplay for the 2001 movie, which was being written at the same time as the book, right? It was the book and the movie were kind of created at the same time. And it contains like characters and stuff that just never made it into the movie.
Okay.
So there's this robot man who's like Data. He's called Aaron Stack. He's the Machine Man, and he wants to be human really bad.
Okay.
And he's connected to the moon somehow because of the monolith, which actually exists in the Marvel universe. And so the idea of, so they kind of took like, the Watcher's not in this, Galactus isn't in this, but they kind of also went like, while we're taking that celestial egg, grab that Machine Man over there. And so now the Celestials are kind of like, or the Eternals, goddammit, are kind of like space robots who really want to be human really bad.
Yes, that's what it reminded. Yeah, I was going to say Data. That's what it reminds me of. Yeah. Right.
And functionally, I mean, they basically are. Like, I don't know.
They essentially
what are they worried
are.
About? Yeah. But,
exactly.
So yeah, it's just like, ugh. But that's all. I don't know. Like a lot of Marvel movies kind of drop stuff because Paul Rudd has to kick a ship or something like that. But like, even though this movie spends a lot of time people staring into the middle distance thinking about things, there's still things that are like, oh man, you could have gone so far into that and you could have given us this and you could have really blown our mind with that. And I love the fact that they're all there. And maybe this is literally what Easter eggs are for. They're just for people who have been stewing in Marvel Comics for 40 years like me to go, oh, that's yeah, you got the thing.
Probably. Yes. I think that's
But I feel like that all gets wiped away when One Direction walks in and he's the superpowered rapist. So that's cool.
Well, maybe hopefully they'll change the character so that's not a part of it anymore.
It's a weird pick. In this day and age, you want to, but apparently that was Chloe Zhao's idea. In fact, I think more or less, I read an article and like more or less Kevin Feige's like, so we need to do Blade and this thing. But what do you want to do? Like, what do you want the scene to be? Where are we going to go? And she's like, I have an idea. I want to do Pip the Troll and I want to do Star Fox. And he's like, well, great. All right. So I don't even know if they have any plans for this, but I didn't know that Chloe Zhao was such a comic head.
Well, when we talked about this, didn't we talk about how like she was in talks with Marvel to direct something,
they said like,
and she said, I want to do Eternals.
They're like, do you want to do Black Widow? She's like, I don't really like Black Widow, but here's an idea. Yeah.
So I think she was really jazzed about doing this. Oh my goodness.
This is just coming apart now. I'm showing Mika a picture of Night Mage, one of my favorite cosplayers, and he is in full Black Knight gear, and it is
that's amazing.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Wouldn't it have been cool if we gotten to see that?
We'll get to see it someday.
I know there was just too much. It's so dense. I hate to say that because it's not really appropriate for this movie because it's better than the prequels. But there's a lot going on. There's a lot of characters. I knew that Icarus had done something or was involved with Ajax.
So now you are just a movie genius. I have seen Richard Madden, except for Game of Thrones. Everything he's cast in, he ends up being Sinister. The British Homeland, whatever that show's called, Bodyguard or whatever it's called, that episode of Electric Dreams that he was in, where he's the cop, who's with the Teeper
He
partner.
wasn't evil in Game of Thrones.
No, I said except Game of Thrones.
Oh, okay.
Because there's something about him, he's very handsome, and there is, but there's just something, there's an edge to him.
I got it from the way that he said it, because he said it kind of shifty.
Oh no, Ajax is dead.
It must have been a deviant.
Oh, a deviant did
this is not exact line reading.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, you had something to do with
the whole
this.
thing with the deviant and like the deviant vampire. Like, did we just need to cram like Bill Skarsgård into this for some reason? Because I know their whole war is supposed to be against the deviants, but the secret villain of their stories is always the Celestials, right? Mm-hmm. And so they didn't find a really good way to, and sadly, Angelina Jolie was great in this.
She was fantastic.
But if you cut the deviant, you could have cut Thena too.
Yeah.
Not as a character, but I mean, like, her whole thing was all with
the
that.
deviants,
That was all. Yeah. She was having her own little movie party in another part of the movie.
Yeah.
People are going to say this is slow. I loved all the conversations. I didn't care. I love the idea of these characters having this long ass history, and yet still adapting pretty well to, usually like in a vampire movie, whatever, it's the guy's like, oh, I can never get used to these horseless carriages or whatever.
Right.
These people, this is their job. They come to planets and they constantly deal with the change of time. And I thought that was fine. And I wouldn't have a problem with it being like, robot Francis McDormand just wandering around a desert, except for the fact that they set up that there's a real problem here.
Yeah, right.
The Earth is going to blow up in a week.
Yeah, right.
And there's some earthquakes that tell us that. And then the movie just settles down and there's a total lack of urgency that I'm fine with, other than the fact that the premise you established was, you guys really need to walk faster when you talk, jog while you talk, and go to the next location.
Yeah, and I guess one of my biggest criticisms is that, I'm not entirely sure how, this is why I feel like I need to view it again. I'm okay with movies jumping around a lot, but there was just so much, we're flashing back, and then you were talking about how, we do this flashback where we see what happens with Icarus and Ajax, which is a little confusing.
The fact that, flashing back to 7000 BC, it's like,
that's
okay,
one thing.
If that's what we're going to do, that's fine.
Yeah.
Flashing back because this is a movie that you wanted to have a twist in, and so 6 days earlier, and it's like, that's not, don't abuse flashbacks. We're flashing back to the beginning of time in this bitch.
Yeah, exactly.
Just find another way to tell that.
Yes.
He could have just said, I killed her. Look, here's her special glove or something like that. I did it.
I know.
Didn't you notice the I-beam holes in her back? Oh, did you know that DC Comics exist in the Marvel Universe?
Apparently.
That's a new revelation.
Because there's a couple of references.
20-something films and superheroes don't exist. And then suddenly they're like, hey, you don't like Batman? You don't like Superman?
Yeah.
And I'm afraid that the movie thought that we were too dumb to realize that they know who Superman is. They've got a character who, I think he overuses the I-beams, but by all rights has always flown, been super strong, and shot lasers out of his eyes. But since a movie called Batman vs. Superman came out 6 years ago, they have to put a joke in because it's Marvel that goes, what's look how crazy this is, look how stupid this is. A Unimind? What a Unimind? I am watching a movie called The Eternals.
I know.
Who serve the Celestials.
I know.
What are you talking about?
Why are we stopping the movie to laugh at how ridiculous Unimind is?
We are all on board.
I can accept that.
We have all been on board the whole time.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, he's kind of like Superman, I guess.
Yeah. So
you just killed the DC versus Marvel crossover, by the way.
Yeah, right. I did want to talk a little bit about Thena. She gets mad weary, is what they call it.
Oh God, which is a kind of dumb storyline. Bob Harris storyline, I think, from when Cersei was in the Avengers.
Yeah.
And it's all part of, not to steal your thunder, but I'm gonna give the title and you can give the story. It's all part of the trope of depowering powerful women.
Yeah, right.
Don't know why we need to do it. But we do.
So Athena she is the goddess of war, like Athena, and
she is so tough that she can basically take on Icarus, who has been established as the Superman of this universe, like hand to hand, and so much so that when they tell her like you're gonna have to fight and possibly kill Icarus, and she's like, I'm waiting a long time for that.
Yeah,
like,
I
she
know.
is ready for this thing.
She is so ready.
But the whole movie she's just got to paint.
Yeah,
just do nothing.
I know, because they, like you were saying, they had to like depower her, but like
I don't get it, man.
This
Jean Grey, Monica Rambeau,
I know,
Cersei in the pages of Avengers.
Yeah. But it's like this illness. They make it seem kind of like it's a mental illness that there's no cure for, and that she is going to just have these episodes where she gets violent and she doesn't know where she is.
They don't really get into it. In fact, they don't really get into it in the comics until I think it was the Gaiman miniseries that like established that. Yes, their bodies, because of their mental control, are very tough and live a long time. But if their body is ever destroyed because you say, throw it into the sun, or you chop it up into a million pieces and feed it to rats or something like that, there is a machine like in the Arctic or the Antarctic that will just grow a new body and you pop out. And they're celestial machines. You don't know how they work. You can't really mess with them. Possibly the Earth itself might be the machine because they are like the immune system of the Earth.
Huh.
So anyway, yeah. But they don't, because we don't want to put all that, hey man, that's heavy. We don't want to put all that on an audience. We just go, you get it. They heal. They're really tough. It's fine.
Right.
So normally the way that you would cure Cersei's Mad Weary in the Harris thing is we just incinerate her. And then the machines will create a new her who will probably know who she is, but lose a lot of her memories, and then she'll be okay because her hard drive's not full.
Right.
And in this, they never, in order to spare us, they don't give us all the weird stuff, but they never give us a clear path to how they're gonna fix her. They have to get rid of her memories, but like, how's that work? Does it involve Ajax's power? Or?
All Ajax says is we'll have to go to the ship and I will do it there. Yeah. And it doesn't go into the specifics.
No.
It's kind of handy.
You know how they eventually cure Cersei's problem? With the Unimind, which they know about because it's always been a part of what they do. And this is another change. This is the change that I'm the most divided on, fittingly, when I finally spit it out, which is, they make them Unimind something Phaistos comes up with. Maybe because they wanted to give him one more reason that he's really important, although completely immobilizing Superman throughout the entire final fight was thumbs up, looking good.
Yeah.
But he comes up with his idea of the Unimind, whereas it's always been part of what the Eternals do in the comics. And the reason they do that is because they've humanized the Eternals, right? They are not weird, unknowable Superman anymore. They are human. And they're a family. And that includes squabbling, that includes mistrust, resentment, stretched over thousands of years. Mm-hmm. And for them to come together, realize they're a family, and work together to save the Earth, they need this expressed in the idea of them finally coming together in this Unimind.
Right.
Eternals in the comics, they may or may not care whether you personally survive because they have a bigger mission. Mm-hmm. And so it doesn't serve that purpose. But in this movie, it serves that specific purpose to the point where Icarus joins the Unimind at the end. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
God, we've been going for a long time, but I want to get to something that I wanted to say about this, and then I will stop talking. Nothing else I say really matters after this. But like, I found myself like crying at the end of this movie. And it's not even sad. Like, I was just crying in awe. I was crying.
Okay.
I was overawed at the scope of what I was seeing. And also the idea that even though they disagree about what's happening, they've literally been trying to kill each other. They still come together at the end because they're fated to. It's the right thing to do. They are a match set. Mm-hmm. They are the full line of action figures. They can do nothing else. They are a family, Right. And ultimately they have to be together. And I think there's just something so, if they are the microcosm of humanity, that's what we need to do. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when she does that thing at the end and like this hand is coming up out of the ocean, like that's the size of a mountain, and she does the thing. I was just like, this has taken everything from me. I am drained by this film. Like at the scale of it, I don't know. Somebody else would watch it and go, it looks fake. I don't know, but it really got me where I was at that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's really moving seeing them come together. I just wanted to say one of my favorite parts of the film is I really enjoyed the character Gilgamesh. I'm really so mad that they killed him.
I'm pissed about that too. But I mean, if they're space robots, you can bring it back.
Gosh, I hope so. Yeah. But I love that he pledges to take care of Thena and that he does it and he loves and cares for her this entire time. Yeah. I wish I could have... You get the sense that they really love and care for each other, but Marvel does this thing where, okay, now we have confirmed sex in this movie.
There is boning does exist in the Marvel universe.
Like, we don't even see like Gilgamesh and Circe like kiss each other.
Athena.
Athena, sorry, I said Circe. But you know that there's this deep love and care for each other, so I can at least appreciate that.
You don't know that she hasn't been a vegetable for 700 years. Do you know what I mean? Like part of what she does is she has to like stay. This is something else that we never, it's not really defined how it works because it doesn't matter. It just keeps her weak until she can kill it. But we get the idea that like stress and like violence like freak her out. And so,
he may have just
been like feeding her applesauce for 700 years.
Yeah, that's true.
But the fact that it's not a question of romantic love. It's just a question of his dedication to her.
And devotion to her.
And obviously, maybe ironically, it's a macrocosm instead of a microcosm, but it's a larger version of what people do every day when they take care of their loved ones, when they show them love, and get nothing in return. Like robots these are human beings.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
I'm going to throw my glasses across the room. What other Marvel movie has this kind of emotion in it?
Well,
none of them. I can't even stop hitting my mic. I'm so upset. No wonder people hate this. It's making them feel.
We haven't talked about Kingo yet.
Kingo was fine.
He is. I thought it was funny.
Yes, he was great. He was great.
Makari. Great.
Oh, she's got a list, everybody. Yes, Makari was great. Yes, if we don't mention it, assume that it's great. Here's a note on my list: doxing a cat. Why did I write doxing a cat?
I don't.
Can you dox a cat?
I don't. No, how do you do that?
Hey, everybody, check out this cat. What if the cat doesn't want to be online? You're making a video of this cat?
Yeah, I have no idea. Give the cat its privacy. Why you said that? What cat is even in this movie? I don't know.
That might have been something I just wrote down randomly.
But I guess my last criticism, and then I'm done. So they had to give a Fastos, he had to have a reason why he gave up on humanity. They decided to go.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
With the H bomb.
Thanks for circling back.
Yeah, you're
welcome. It's an A bomb, not an H bomb.
A bomb. Sorry. Right, atomic bomb. In Hiroshima. Maybe that's why I said H bomb.
Not the N bomb.
What? No.
You did it, and it'll never be the title of this episode, unfortunately.
No.
Spit it out.
What I didn't appreciate is that he's having this very emotional scene, and the backdrop is the just recently bombed Hiroshima.
Yeah.
And he's talking to Ajak, and he's having this like, I did this, I'm responsible, and she's like, no, and she's like comforting him, and he's like, what do I do?
And they're clearly in the volume from The Mandalorian. It's like a fake.
Yeah,
they're the only. There's just two of them.
It's just them. There's no other people.
It would be full of burning, screaming Japanese people.
Yes, and dead people.
And it's ironic that it's ironic. Oh, and I don't actually know if Brian Henry Tyree is gay or not.
Okay.
So I don't want to double down on that. I said it before. I'll leave it in. But he has refused to talk about his life. To me, that means like he's probably gay. But whatever. He doesn't have a girlfriend.
Wow.
But it's too bad that he sits at the intersection of a couple elements of intersectionality, and yet they are appropriating the Japanese's tragedy. It's like, I'm the one who's sad about the Japanese. It's like, okay, Oppenheimer, it wasn't really your problem, was it? It was theirs.
I know.
I get that that's his trigger, but instead, just have the scene at the IKEA table and have him, do the horror cutting off the arms scene, or like a diamond the size of a tangerine scene. Write him a speech that gets that through without going to just bombed Hiroshima.
Well, and it also,
why is a Mexican lady there?
Well, yeah, and also to me, like I mean, maybe they wanted to just really illustrate them feeling helpless in the face of tragedies and then also them being responsible. But to me, it neuters the actual real tragedy of Hiroshima. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's what it just did not sit well to me. And
also,
and I was looking around, I'm like, where are all the people? It just took me out of the scene.
He'd have to be real smart to be allowed to be a scientist back then. We never talk about their ethnicities. I love how diverse this movie is.
It's very diverse.
And maybe if you're just talking to some cavemen on the shore, they don't care what color you are. But that gets more and more complicated as we go. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And apparently there are Irish alien robots.
Apparently.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
But then having like Phaistos, be a black man. And then like, oh, I helped build the bomb. I don't think you did, unless you were the secret sauce behind the project.
I think he just meant he led them down this path of technology.
But he's wearing like a cardigan sweater and a bow tie and little rimmed glasses, like
a scientist,
like Enrico Fermi or something. Actually, Fermi is a pretty good dresser, I think. So yeah, so like, and we don't want this necessarily from our Eternals movie, but I think there is a path to explore about how, if we are, how complicated it becomes. Like, okay, we've got an Eternals mission. Come on, Phaistos, I'm going to send you to Montgomery, Alabama. It's like, oh, but it's 1959.
Yeah, no thanks.
Send Icarus instead.
Yeah,
right.
I think so.
Yeah. So maybe some comic writer will come along someday and write a cool thing about that.
That'd be cool.
And they can help Rosa Parks stay on that bus. We did it.
We did.
And I'm glad that we did it.
Uh-huh.
And it was fun.
Yes.
And I'd do it again.
Yeah.
I don't feel bad about it at all.
No.
I want to thank our Patreon producer, A. Frank, at the Hamilton level, who has supported us for a long time. And we're one of his biggest fans.
Yeah, thank you.
And it's thanks to him and our other producers on Patreon that you got to hear us talk about Zardoz.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope you enjoyed that. We'll have another poll up soon. Probably going to be another movie as we sort of like work out the kinks of how we do this. But then, maybe we'll start increasing the frequency once we know how we're doing it. But look for a new movie poll on Patreon in the near future and let us know what you want us to talk about on the show. I'm comfortable with this thing being over 2.5 hours. We talked about 2 cool movies.
Yep.
That were kind of the same movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, join us on social media if you haven't already. If you're a new listener, we've got social medias, Just Enough Trope on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Also, we're on Discord. We've got a link in our show notes where you can join us. Talk about this. If you liked Eternals, we want to hear about it. If you didn't like Eternals, I want to hear about that too, because that's kind of going around right now. I don't understand how people don't like this movie that I like so much, but I'm a weirdo. So come tell me I'm a big weirdo on Discord. Go to your listening platform of choice. However you listen to the show, be it on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Actually, not on Spotify for this next bit. Or Acast, whatever your crazy system is.
Right.
Go there and subscribe to the show. Give us a review and a rating if you are allowed to, because it really does help us. It lets our masters know, our tabernacle, our celestials know that we're doing a good job.
Oh my goodness.
And we should be rewarded. And so we would really appreciate that. Give us 5 loaves of green bread.
Where do they get the dye to dye it green?
Is
it from leaves?
They're doing something special to that bread.
Yeah.
Doing something mean to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the leaves. Oh, maybe it's in... Oh, there's this whole subplot that was cut out about... That would make the leaf make sense, I bet.
Probably. Is it a drug?
If you don't know what we're talking about, you didn't watch Zardoz. Well, that's why I thought, like, it's all, like, about weed, right? Like, he first comes in and there's a bunch of green plants, like, in bubbles, you know, with, like, water going in. And it's like, oh, this is just... They're just growing weed.
Right, right.
That's fine. Anyway, give us 5 stars. So we don't have to talk to the cops. We'll be back next week to talk about something else, and we're signing off. Until then, I'm your host, Caliban.
I'm your co-host, Mikan Hana.
Keep the geek fires burning.